Chapter 1462. The Beast King fell, and the dragon transformation proved itself. The dragon transformation was taking shape in a deserted place. The heaven and earth were shaking, and the golden lotuses were blooming. The Beast King had become a sovereign realm warrior. In addition, the moment the dragon transformation took shape, the trembling 6th and 10th layers of heaven suddenly became much more stable. The 36 layers of heaven, the Beast King exclaimed, "I didn't expect that the dragon transformation would be the Beast King." Before he died, the Beast King thought of him. The dragon transformation was almost forgotten by everyone, but at the moment of his death, the Beast King thought of this forgotten descendant. It was a brilliant and wise choice. If the Beast King chose someone else, the humans would not agree. The heaven-subduing king and the others would not give him a chance. But he chose the dragon transformation, which led to the Beast King helping him. More importantly, the dragon transformation had disrupted some people's plans, including Emperor of Heaven Reverses, Emperor Gods, and even Heaven Emperors. It was not the dragon transformation that should be proven, but Heavenwood and Kuanping. The Beast King set them up before his death. "What you want, I will not give it to you. I will ruin your plans, even at the cost of my life." The God Emperor didn't say anything. He just looked at Zhong Tian and said, "The dragon transformation is born from the fusion of the essence blood of a beast and the essence blood of a demon plant. Is his Tao the complete demon emperor Tao?" Even the emperor god was curious. Was it? Probably not. Though the origin land was more stable, it was not at that level. This was not the result of opening up a new path. The Emperor of Heaven Reverse nodded and said with a smile, "The Beast King is the sovereign realm warrior after all. That demonic plant was not powerful. Therefore, the gap is still wide. The demonic plant is needed to prove itself." About heaven, the Emperor of Heaven Reverse smiled. "I planned to let Kuanping and Heaven would prove themselves. Therefore, I had some plans for them. But now, the plan was disrupted. It was not the Kuanping, but the dragon transformation. At this moment, if this continued, the humans would send reinforcements to the dragon transformation instead of killing the Kuanping as they expected. This was a huge problem. Let's not worry about Heavenwood for now. Proving the Tao now will only make the origin land more stable." Emperor of Heaven Reverse chose to give up. The previous plan was for the two of them to prove their Tao and fuse with the Demon Emperor's Tao fruit. The two of them would guard the same level of heaven. Naturally, there would be other plans after that. They would not let the Celestial Emperor take advantage of them. But now, he temporarily gave up on this idea. Beast King had been killed. At this moment, on the side of the fourth heaven, the Forging God Envoy had borrowed the Beast Emperor's Tao fruit to complete the suppression of his own crevice. The God Creation Envoy laughed out loud, retracted his pipe, and laughed wildly. "I am free. Feng Ping, kid, ask the 3 emperors to come and pick me up. I'm leaving. I'm not going to play with them anymore." He had completed the suppression of the source ground. Now, he just had to run away with the Tao fruit. They could also leave through the door, but the Tao fruit couldn't run away. The Tao fruit could also run away through the path opened by the 3 emperors. "Cut the crap. Let's go to the 9th heaven." The subduing heavenly king roared. What nonsense were they spouting? Run. Where can I run to? Go to the 9th heaven and work hard. On the other side, North King was being suppressed by Feng Ping and Old Zhang. However, if they wanted to kill North King, they might not be able to do so quickly. The God Creation Envoy chuckled, without wasting any time. He began to cross the world and instantly entered the 5th heaven. Just as he crossed the world and descended into the 5th heaven, The subduing, heavenly king's expression changed drastically as he roared, "Be careful!" Before the God creation envoy could finish speaking, in the fifth heaven, a thin sword suddenly pierced through the world and pierced into his body. Fast, accurate, ruthless. This sword seemed to have been prepared for a long time, waiting for him to descend to the fifth heaven. As for the master of the fifth heaven, everyone had almost forgotten about it. This was because the master of the fifth heaven was not at the origin, but was suppressing the sea of bitterness, Li Zhu. Therefore, before this, no one cared about the situation in the fifth heaven. However, the appearance of this sword shocked everyone. Someone was here. It was none other than Li Zhu. Li Zhu seemed to have returned a long time ago and had been hiding in the fifth heaven. This heaven was his own territory, and no one would be able to discover him even if he hid here unless he specifically looked for him. The God creation envoy was running towards the sixth heaven with a face full of excitement, who knew that he would suddenly be assassinated. The emperor had a mission, and Li Zhu's mission was to suppress the sea of bitterness. But he was back. He came back without a sound. Puchi, a muffled sound of metal piercing through flesh, could be heard. Li Zhu had used all his strength to launch a surprise attack on the defenseless God creation envoy. The sixth heaven was where King Suppressing and the others were, and the fifth heaven was adjacent to the sixth heaven. After killing the beast emperor, when the others were about to go to the ninth heaven to help Fong Ping and the others, Li Zhu made his move. The God creation envoy's eyes widened, as if he could not believe it. The thin sword carried a destructive aura, and with a slight flick, it picked up a pocket-sized hammer. Li Zhu instantly caught it, and with a cold expression, he did not say anything and thrusted his sword out again. However, the God creation envoy's heart had been pierced by the sword just now. His power fluctuated unsteadily, and he was even somewhat unable to move. At this moment, the power that carried a destructive aura exploded in his body, and he watched helplessly as the sword pierced into his eyes. Boom! Inside his head, a sparkling and translucent crystal exploded. Boom! His entire body exploded. Li Zhu was indifferent as he swept his gaze in all directions. Holding the small hammer in his hand, he revealed a smile. The Tao fruit of the God creation, envoy. This fellow wanted to leave directly, but he had actually brought the Tao fruit with him. In addition, he was his ally in front of him. The fourth heaven was completely repaired, so he no longer needed to use the Tao fruit to suppress it. At this moment, it was Li Zhu's turn. Li Zhu! A roar, a furious roar, shook the world. Below, the king suppressing heaven and earth shattered with a punch. With a loud rumble, he charged into the fifth heaven. Li Zhu had actually ambushed the God creation envoy. At the moment of their great victory, he had killed the God creation envoy. Where did he get the guts to do so? No, how did he come back? The sea of bitterness still needed someone to suppress it. No one knew that Li Zhu had left. So how did he return to the fifth heaven without a sound? Li Zhu laughed. He did not care about the king suppressing heaven who was rushing over, and said softly, "God creation envoy, a true genius. Unfortunately, what the three realms needs is not a genius. You're courting death." The king suppressing heaven was furious. The God creation envoy was not completely dead yet, so it didn't matter if his body exploded. His Tao fruit was still there. But now that the Tao fruit was with Li Zhu, the God creation envoy could not even revive if he wanted to, unless he snatched the Tao fruit back. "Why are you so angry, King suppressing heaven? Who in the three realms can escape this calamity?" Li Zhu smiled faintly. In the next moment, a sword struck towards the little hammer. In the fifth heaven, a huge crack appeared. He wanted to break the God creation envoy's Tao fruit and repair his own crack. At this moment, a voice sounded out, "Li Zhu, you want to betray me?" the voice of the heavenly emperor. Li Zhu was indifferent and said with a chuckle, "What betrayal! Lord Heavenly Emperor asked me to return and ambush the experts of the human race. Didn't I do it? As for the Tao fruit, this is Li Zhu's own harvest. If it is broken, then it is broken. Lord, aren't you wrongly accusing me of betrayal?" Obviously, his return this time was caused by the heavenly emperor. Ambushing the experts of the human race did not allow him to shatter the Tao fruit. However, Li Zhu clearly did not care. At this moment, he chose to shatter the Tao fruit. The little hammer exploded with a boom. In front of him, King Suppressing Heaven's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. With a furious roar, he quickly broke through the void and charged towards Li Zhu. However, Li Zhu laughed. "King Suppressing Heaven, I was only forced by someone. The mastermind was not me." Just as he said that, there was a loud boom. The world trembled, and a mechanical sound rang out. "God Creation Envoy, fall." Li Zhu laughed, and as he laughed, his expression suddenly changed. 3 realms. When the sound of the God Creation Envoy's death came, many humans were shocked. However, the sky was not dark. No, the sky was originally dark. When the Beast Emperor fell, the sky turned dark, but when the Dragon Transformation Tao was proven, the sky became bright again. Now, there was only sound and no movement. In the Source Land, Li Zhu was also slightly shocked, and his expression changed drastically. The Tao fruit had been broken, and the world had reacted. But where was the power? Where was the power of the Tao fruit? Where was the power to repair the crack? At this moment, someone scolded, "You want to ambush me? You want to eat a fart? Why don't you King ambush and kill old Ghostjen? If you can't, then go kill Fang Ping." Am I an idiot? Did the God Creation Envoy come for nothing? The #1 fraud in the 3 realms. Pui, did the #1 blacksmith master come for nothing? He cursed. The voice was too close, right above Li Zhu's head. At this moment, a huge pipe suddenly covered Li Zhu. In the next moment, the other end of the pipe was aimed at the crack in the 5th heaven. The God Creation Envoy appeared and scolded, "What a huge loss. You actually killed my God fraud avatar, the last one. And now it's gone. I have tens of thousands of years of savings." Not far away, King Suppressing Heaven was stunned. "You're not dead." "Nonsense." The God Creation Envoy scolded. "You want me to die so badly? I have an immortal body, ever-changing, and a forgery expert. Since Fang Ping said that someone wanted to kill us this time, how could I not be careful? I just didn't expect that it was this bastard who plotted against me." He really did not expect that the one who ambushed him would be Li Zhu. Previously, he had suspected many people, but he really did not expect it to be Li Zhu, because this guy's strength was not considered strong. He had just proven his Tao, and he was still in the bitter sea. To be honest, he did not have any backing. The others might have some connections with the emperor, but Li Zhu really did not. He didn't know when he had actually gotten involved with the heavenly emperor. Of course, in the end, when he saw that he had broken his Tao fruit, he did not seem to have completely listened to the heavenly emperor. He did not know if he had also gotten involved with the divine emperor and the others, or if it was his own idea. After cursing for a while, the God Creation Envoy was slightly stunned and suddenly took the tube away. Li Zhu, who was previously covered, had disappeared. The God Creation Envoy was stunned. Where was he? He could even disappear into thin air. He had created a fake Tao fruit, a fake body, and even a fake voice. He wanted to take advantage of the moment when the enemy was distracted to kill him. Therefore, the moment he covered Li Zhu, he felt that Li Zhu was dead for sure. But now, where was he? Very quickly, he knew where he was. At this moment, The emperors who were rushing over from the 18th heaven suddenly had another person beside them. It was as if he had appeared out of thin air. Li Zhu. When Li Zhu came out, his face was a little pale. He bowed slightly to the person beside him and said tiredly, "Thank you, Emperor of Earth, for saving me." Emperor of Earth. At this moment, the Emperor of Earth laughed, glanced at Li Zhu, then looked at the ongoing battle in front of him, and said with a smile, "It's good that you're fine." The Emperor of Earth and Li Zhu. On the other side, the human emperor glanced at them, smiled, and said in a clear voice, "Brother Hong, you really trust King Li. You actually opened up a Dao fruit for King Li." Yes, the same origin. Not only were they of the same origin, they were of the same Dao. Both of them were emperors of the Earth realm. That was why Li Zhu was able to use the Dao fruit passage that the Emperor of Earth had opened up to help Li Zhu escape the calamity. The Emperor of Earth had also cultivated the great Dao of the Earth Emperor before, but he had fused it later on. At this moment, he actually trusted Li Zhu so much that he directly opened up the Dao fruit and allowed the other party to enter and exit. Beside the Emperor of Earth, Hong Kuen's eyes flickered. Even he did not know about this situation. Father was actually so close to Li Zhu. This was somewhat unexpected. However, the Emperor of Earth chuckled and said, "Kuener, what are you looking at? Your brother. The Earth realm belongs to my Hong family. How can we let others control it?" Hong Kuen. Brother? Hong Kuen's expression changed. How could I have a brother? Wasn't Hong Yu one? Why was there a Li Zhu as well? He was truly shocked. Not only him, but all the emperors of the three realms were probably shocked as well. The Emperor of Earth, however, did not care much. He chuckled and said, "I had nothing better to do, so I wandered the Earth realm and had a night of fun." Sigh. I thought that a sovereign Dao body could not have any descendants, but fate has it Hong Kuen looked helpless. Your father did not want this either, but there was no other way. Even emperors could have descendants. There was nothing he could do. Hong Kuen was truly shocked. This meant that the Earth realm had always been under the control of his family. First it was Hong Yu, then Li Zhu. These two had actually been controlling the Earth realm, and Li Zhu had even become an emperor because of this. Then Hong Kuen quickly frowned. He could talk about the younger brother later. What he was frowning about now was why Li Zhu had been sent to kill the human cultivators. Wasn't this creating a strong enemy for them? At this moment, Li Zhu had recovered a little. As if he knew what Hong Kuen was going to say, he chuckled and said, "It's not that we want to kill them, but besides the humans, we want to kill them all." He was just going with the flow. Besides, without the Celestial Emperor, he would not be able to return to the place of origin. If he really killed the Weapon God envoy, he could also leave the place of origin. At this moment, Hong Kuen did not say anything else. The others, on the other hand, were a little dazed. What had the old Emperor of Earth been doing all these years? His eldest son had become an emperor, and his youngest son had become an emperor. As for Hong Yu, he had disappeared after being rescued last time, as if he had been destroyed. But was he really destroyed? That planet with lives also had a lot of good stuff in it. Was Hong Yu going to become an emperor too? If that was the case, a sect with 4 emperors would be too terrifying. At this moment, in the 9th heaven, Fong Ping shouted coldly, "Emperor of Earth, you have a death wish." The Emperor of Earth had actually asked Li Zhu to ambush and kill the human powerhouses. He deserved to die. Emperor of Earth continued to rush toward the 9th heaven. Hearing Fong Ping's words, he laughed and said, "Fong Ping, Li Zhu is also following the orders of the Celestial Emperor. Without Li Zhu, there will be others. What's more, Zhao is still alive, right? It's better for Li Zhu to take action than others. Otherwise, Zhao might be dead." Fong Ping's face turned cold. He ignored him. Li Zhu was a member of Emperor of Earth's family. He was also a little shocked. Emperor of Earth had been wandering in the three realms all these years. He had a lot of backups and arrangements. Also, Celestial Terminus had told Fang Ping that Emperor of Heaven Reverse might have a close relationship with Earthly Emperor. This party was not weak. Emperor of Heaven Reverse, Earthly Emperor, Hong Kuan, Li Zhu, they might all be in cahoots. Emperor of God also had his own arrangements and backups. It was not without reason that Emperor of Heaven Reverse was among the 4 chess players in the 3 realms. In the past, when Emperor of Earth died and disappeared from the place of origin, it might have been arranged by Emperor of Heaven Reverse. Even when Emperor of Heaven Reverse broke into the origin, it was said that he was tricked by Emperor of Earth. However, Emperor of West said that Emperor of Heaven Reverse and Emperor of Earth might have acted together and entered the trap of their own accord. Li Zhu was the son of the earthly sovereign. Fang Ping was truly surprised. However, no matter what, these people were his enemies. Fang Ping snorted, "Emperor of Earth, I thought you would be on my side. Now it seems that one of us will die sooner or later." Who was Li Zhu? The Lord of the Catacombs and the Lord of the Monster Plant's royal palace. Over the years, most of the murders of the human race were done by the powerhouses of the catacombs under Li Zhu's command. Fang Ping, I have saved you many times. Emperor of Earth laughed loudly. If I didn't save you in the divine sect, how could you have survived until now? If I didn't help you several times against the enemies, how could you have survived until now? The war between the earthly realm and the human world is not what you and I want. We just have to fight. Fang Ping was too lazy to answer. Hong Yu said that the seed of rebirth was in the human world, which caused the war between the human world and the catacombs. After that, Li Zhu led the catacombs' royal palace and had countless bloody battles with the human race in the outland. Emperor of Earth could get away with it by saying that it was not what you and I wanted. What was more, Emperor of Earth might not have good intentions. He had thought that Emperor of Earth might have the intention to ally with the human race. It seemed that this was not the case. Fang Ping ignored him. He swung his saber. Uffed. North King's powerful arm was cut off. North King's face turned cold. The Beast King was dead. Now, the heaven-suppressing king, and the others were almost there. This time, he might not be able to escape, but he was unwilling. Heaven Emperor, I am willing to hand over the fruit. At this moment, North King changed his mind. He was willing to hand over the fruit in exchange for his life today. Heaven Emperor must have something up his sleeves. Previously, that phantom might really be someone from the Sky Emperor's side. Among Hong, Hao, and Ji, one of them must be working with Heaven Emperor. Hong didn't think it was possible. He might be Heaven Emperor Reverse's partner. Then, between East King and Ren Huang, one of them should be Heaven Emperor's partner. Who was it? He didn't know. All he knew was that it would take some time for those people to arrive. But he could not hold on any longer. He only hoped that Heaven Emperor could find a way to stop them. This was the origin, Heaven Emperor's territory. Heaven Emperor could do it. Could Heaven Emperor save him? The next moment, Heaven Emperor responded. Fang Ping, Zhang Tao, killing Shen won't do you any good. As soon as the words fell, the heaven-suppressing king and the others who were on their way suddenly turned pale. Rumble! The world they were guarding suddenly trembled. The heaven-suppressing king and the others' energy was quickly suppressed and consumed. The origin was shaking. Heaven Emperor was shaking the origin. Fang Ping and Zhang Tao were fine, but the others, apart from the God-crafting envoy, were actually under the control of the origin. Heaven Emperor didn't know if he could control them directly, but now The origin was shaking, and they were affected. Tengu, go save Xian. At this time, Heaven Emperor's voice came again. Tengu. This dog was arranged by Heaven Emperor, and the Tao was still under the control of the origin. Tengu, who had arrived at the eighth heaven, was about to reach Fong Ping. Hearing this, he suddenly bared his teeth and roared, "Save your ancestors! Let go of my Tao, and I'll go save them. Otherwise, stop dreaming." This was too much. How could he control his own Tao and say he was on the same side? Who would believe him? Tengu was arrogant and unruly. He didn't pay attention to Heaven Emperor at all. What's more, he was also Heaven Emperor. The other's Tao trembled, but Tengu did not. Obviously, Heaven Emperor was controlling it. Heaven Emperor was not angry. He laughed. In the next moment, a projection was projected. The projection's power was not too strong, but this projection was rushing towards Tengu. Tengu opened his mouth and was about to bite. However, the projection quickly vanished, and in the next moment, the heavenly hound roared, "How dare you invade my great Tao?" Its Tao was controlled by the origin, and at this moment, the Tao was invaded by someone, the projection of Heaven Emperor. "I'll borrow your body." Heaven Emperor's laughter came. Tengu had no choice but to be willing. This dog was raised by him. The Tao was still under control. Since Tengu was unwilling, then he would borrow Tengu's body to save Xian. It was not for Xian, but for Xian's Tao fruit. The Beast Emperor was dead, and the sixth heaven was shattering. If the North King died, the 10th heaven would be in chaos. Tengu roared violently and struggled, but the effect was not too good. This scene also terrified everyone who was controlled by the Tao, including Li Zhu. His Tao was also under control. He did not expect to be able to forcibly take over a body and invade the Tao. Was this considered possession? As for the earthly sovereign, he frowned slightly but was not too worried. Seeing Li Zhu's uneasiness, the Earth Emperor smiled and said carelessly, "It doesn't matter. Your Tao is the Tao of the Earth Emperor, which overlaps with my Tao. You can't control me, so I can't control you." He really did not care too much. Although Li Zhu's Tao was also under control, if he wanted to, the earthly sovereign could break the restrictions of the origin. He had tampered with the origin himself. Why would he worry about this? He was not worried, but Tengu's roar shook the heavens. But it was useless. Tengu gradually felt that its body was no longer under its control. Even its Tao was disobedient. And at this moment, a cat suddenly appeared and jumped on Tengu's head. "Ash Cat, meow." Ash Cat meowed, as if to confirm whether Tengu was still alive. Tengu roared again. "Stupid cat, go away. This body is no longer under my control." At this moment, Tengu actually had the tendency to attack Ash Cat. Heaven's Sovereign's voice came. "Ash Cat, this has nothing to do with you. Go and wait." Before he finished speaking, Ash Cat's cat world suddenly moved. The next moment, Tengu appeared in the cat world. In the cat world, the black swamp was still there. Ash Cat instantly moved Tengu to the vicinity of the black swamp. A kitten appeared and meowed. "Big dog self-destruct. It's fun." Tengu was stunned. "Damn it, stupid cat wants me to self-destruct. It's okay. If I die, the black swamp will appear at the origin. The origin will be invaded by the black swamp. Let's see if this big bad guy dares to do it." "Hurry," Ash Cat urged. Tengu also made up his mind. He really believed Ash Cat. Although his body was being controlled, self-destructing did not require much energy. It was hard to live, but it was easy to die. The next moment, Tengu's head turned ferocious. Then self-destruct. Boom. Just as chi and blood surged, Heaven's Sovereign laughed. "You cats and dogs, sigh." With a sigh, Heaven's Sovereign's aura suddenly disappeared. Tengu lost control and hurriedly roared. He ran away. I don't want to die. Big cat, quickly suppress my chi and blood surging. Halfway through self-destructing, Heaven's sovereign ran away. This bastard, he actually ran away irresponsibly after getting on me. But Ash Cat ignored him at this moment. At this moment, Ash Cat suddenly ran away. His real body ran away. He ran near the 3 gates, smashed them with a loud bang, and walked out of the origin. In the next moment, he broke through the sky from the source universe and instantly entered the 9 heavens. Spirit Emperor frowned slightly. Ash Cat ignored her and suddenly spat out a dog. Without saying anything, he sent Tengu flying with his tail towards Spirit Emperor and the immortal source. Big fatty, it's going to explode. If you don't save it, it will explode. Spirit Emperor frowned while Tengu roared in horror. Save this Emperor, or else this Emperor will publicize the video of you bathing in the 3 realms. Spirit Emperor's face instantly turned ashen. In the next moment, Spirit Emperor took action, grabbing Tengu with one hand and Tengu's head with the other. With a loud bang, Tengu's head exploded, but the uncontrollable power in his body found an outlet. It instantly surged towards Spirit Emperor. Even if Tengu was not too strong, the self-destruction of an emperor made it difficult for Spirit Emperor. At this moment, a cat instantly appeared in front of the immortal source as if it had teleported. Puchi, with a sweep of its tail, a huge great Tao was broken. Then, Ash Cat instantly ran away without looking back. As for Tengu, I don't want it anymore. This cat has already helped you break the control of the great Tao. As for Big Fatty, he probably won't kill you, right? I don't know. Big Dog, you better pray for yourself. If you speak nicely, you probably won't be killed, right? Ash Cat ran very quickly. Spirit Emperor grabbed Tengu's head, and his expression changed slightly. He snorted lightly and ignored Ash Cat. His jade-like hand clenched into a fist and punched again. Boom. Tengu's head exploded again. Tengu was about to go crazy. You don't force this Emperor. Boom. Just as his head grew out, it was blown up again. Spirit Emperor said coldly, to save you lest your blood and chi explode and self-destruct. Even though he said that, punch after punch, the dog's head was blown up more than 10 times in a row. Later on, Tengu decided not to recover, but if it didn't recover its head, Spirit Emperor wouldn't let it go. He beat its body until it exploded, and countless golden fur fell off. In the end, he kicked Tengu away like he was kicking a dead dog. It wasn't like kicking a dead dog. It was a real dead dog. Tengu was almost completely blown up. His body was badly mutilated, and he disappeared with a single kick. Between heaven and earth, there was only the powerless and furious roars of the Tengu. This emperor will return. Tengu was heavily injured, but it was no longer under the control of the heavenly emperor. The great Tao was also broken by the Ash Cat, and it was no longer under the control of the immortal source. Spirit Emperor didn't even look in the direction where Tengu disappeared. His expression was cold as he raised his head to look at the 9 heavens. The origin war was still going on. As for the North Emperor, he really couldn't hold on any longer. Tengu's rescue failed, and Li Zhu's attack on the God Creation Envoy failed. At this moment, the North Emperor had nowhere to run. Chapter 1463. The 9th Heaven. North King had lost all hope. No one came to help. King Wu and Fong Ping completely suppressed him. He was not weak, but he could not escape from the 2 of them. North King wanted to break out of the encirclement several times, but unfortunately, both of them could suppress him. At this moment, although Heavenly Emperor and the others were affected by the Heavenly Emperor and could not rush over quickly, he would not survive if this continued. His flesh was slashed by Fang Ping again and again, severing it several times. Relying on his strong vitality, he recovered again and again, but each slash took away a large amount of his vitality. Was he going to die? North King was slightly dazed. At this moment, he suddenly wanted to recall the past, to recall his dead cultivation partner, to recall his lovely daughter. North King suddenly laughed and said softly, "The Emperor is also a prisoner. Heavenly Emperor, you are too ruthless." He said that Heavenly Emperor was too ruthless. Was it, after 30,000 years of suffering, 10,000 years of imprisonment? These emperors had long been tortured to madness. North King laughed again. Fang Ping was expressionless. With another slash, North King's arm was cut off. This time, he did not recover, nor did he have the strength to recover. On the other side, Old Zhang also pulled out his bamboo whip. With a snapping sound, North King's entire flesh was cracking. North King smiled brightly and suddenly said, "Everyone, have you seen an emperor self-destruct before?" Fang Ping frowned. Old Zhang's expression was also solemn as they quickly began to strengthen the Book of Great Tao. "Don't worry, I'm not interested in dragging you down with me." North King smiled very happily at this moment, very brightly. "I still want others to have a taste of this. Why would I kill you? Both of you. I've been thinking, if the Emperor self-destructs and directly collapses a layer of heaven and earth, this source, what will happen? Unfortunately, I don't want to die, I don't want to try, so I never had the chance. I heard that Fang Ping likes to watch fireworks. Today, why don't I put on the most brilliant fireworks night for you?" North King smiled brightly and murmured, "Collapse this 9th heaven, break my 10th heaven, Heavenly Emperor. Qiong, you guys play. I won't accompany you in the 3 realms." "Ha ha ha. Moon Spirit, your father died a long time ago. Since he's not your father, then I won't give you anything. Just watch the fireworks and be happy. Ha ha ha." North King laughed wildly. At this moment, some people sighed. Some people wanted to say something but hesitated. Fang Ping and Zhang Tao hesitated. Should they leave? If they left, the North Emperor might escape. If they didn't leave, if a monarch were to self-detonate, especially a monarch like the North Emperor who had self-detonated along with his Tao fruit, they might be seriously injured. Fang Ping looked at the North King's frenzied look and saw him suddenly burning up. His expression changed slightly, and he shouted, "Let's go!" He did not stay any longer. Zhang Tao didn't waste any time and quickly flew towards the 8th heaven. The North Emperor did not flee. The only reason Fang Ping dared to leave was because this crazy guy had actually ignited his Tao fruit at this moment. The North Emperor laughed heartily. Overlooking the source, he no longer paid attention to Fang Ping and the others. Looking at the earthly sovereign and the others who were not too far away from him, the North Emperor's gaze swept past them. Very quickly, he looked even further down. Heavenly Emperor, Qiong, Do, the North Emperor had a smile on his face as he said, "Continue fighting. Don't die too early. Unfortunately, I won't be able to see that great show. Qiong, aren't you afraid of fighting with me? Are you worried that you won't be able to match the celestial Arch even if you join forces? Today, I will help you to weaken his strength so that you will have the guts to find him. I really want to see the day when you fight to the death. It's a pity I won't be able to see it." Ha ha ha. He seemed to have understood something. The Emperor God and the Emperor of Heaven Reverse were afraid of the Heaven Emperor. Therefore, even though they had always wanted to fight the Heaven Emperor, they dared not to take any action. Now they saw their chance. The Tao fruits of the sovereigns were broken, and the source was in turmoil. Now, the 7th and 6th heaven needed to be suppressed by powerful warriors. Today, he blew up the 9th heaven, and there was no one to suppress the 10th heaven. for heavens were broken. He would like to see if the Emperor God and the others still dared to do anything at that time. In the three realms, there are no monarchs, only prisoners. A shout shook the three realms. What happened next shocked the entire three realms. Boom! It was daybreak, bright. Between heaven and earth, at this moment, there was only a huge ball of light rising. It even eclipsed the source of the deity, as if the sun was exploding, buzzing. The three realms were shaken. The world was turned upside down. Countless warriors began to suppress the earth and the firmament, rumble. At this moment, a large number of walls were broken. The passageways connecting the underground cavern and the human world were shaken. Many passageways began to crack. The walls between the celestial beings and the human world were cracking. There were 9 heavens in the 3 realms. The source of the 3 realms had 36 heavens. Today, in the 9 heavens of the 3 realms, space cracked. Rumble. The first heaven, the second heaven, and the third heaven collapsed at this moment. From now on, there would only be 6 heavens in the 3 realms, not 9. Turbulence, tremors, volcanoes erupted, the world was turned upside down, and the sea of bitterness roared. At this moment, the sea of bitterness once again invaded the 3 realms. The sea water surged, and the waves reached the sky. Self-destruction? Yes, self-destruction. So far, this was the most powerful warrior to die in the 3 realms, and he died from self-destruction. Emperor North was much more powerful than the Beast King and Emperor Nan. At this moment, he blew himself up with the Tao fruits. The power was appalling. At the source of the land, the 9th heaven collapsed. There was no one in this heaven. At this moment, there was still a huge crack that pierced through the 9th heaven. Then, the 9th heaven collapsed, and in the 10th heaven, there was also a huge crack. The 2 cracks were connected. The 2 worlds fused together, creating an even bigger crack that swept through the 11th and 8th heaven. F***CK. At this moment, someone cursed. Unexpectedly, it was not one of the powerful warriors who participated in the battle, but Emperor West's voice. Emperor West's voice came from afar. He roared, "Are you crazy? Do you want to destroy the 8th heaven? Hurry up and suppress it. My Tao fruits are still there. Don't force me. If you don't suppress it, I'll blow up the 8th and 7th heaven too." Emperor West was exasperated. Disaster fell from the sky. If the 8th heaven exploded, even if he escaped from the source of the land, he would still be finished if his Tao fruits were destroyed. Moreover, he did not want to be finished just like that. It was too unjust. Xian death was fine. Why did he have to self-destruct? Self-destruction was fine, but why was it so powerful? Couldn't it have been better to self-destruct at the 10th heaven? Why did he have to go to the 9th heaven to self-destruct? Wasn't he implicating himself? It was too shameful. Emperor North has fallen. The robotic voice sounded again. The 3 realms first lit up, then fell into boundless darkness. Even the celestial source could not light up the 3 realms. Today, the 2nd emperor had fallen. 9 ancient emperors. In a short period of time, 3 had died in succession. Sea region. On a mountain in the middle of the sea, huge waves crashed. Moon Spirit did not care. He looked up at the sky, expressionless, and did not speak. Emperor North was dead. Perhaps he was free. 8,000 years ago, when an emperor became a prisoner, his father's heart had probably died. Perhaps he knew that he could not escape this calamity. That was why the North Emperor Blade flew back that day. Today, the one who died was the prisoner Emperor North, not his father. But why did he still feel some uncontrollable sadness? Moon Spirit looked up at the dark sky, at the explosion of light in the darkness. He did not speak. Emperor North did not help someone before his death like the Beast Emperor, because he said that emperors were just prisoners. Since that was the case, he was already dead. Why create another prisoner? Origin. Two heavens shattered. The huge origin began to shake violently. Sky, battle! At this moment, someone shouted. His voice shook the origin. Emperor God and Emperor of Heaven reverse said nothing. It was Heaven Emperor's voice. Heaven Emperor smiled. You too, are you sure you don't want to protect the origin? Still no reply. Ha! A chuckle was heard. The next second, a surge of energy spread out. Boom! The 9th and 10th heavens merged together. The huge crack was crashing against the entire origin. At this moment, a surge of energy swept across. With a boom, the world quieted down. 2 heavens were suppressed. In addition, a surge of energy erupted from the 6th heavens as well, suppressing the 6th heavens. At this moment, Heaven Emperor was appallingly powerful. He was suppressing 3 places alone. Not only that, but also Spirit Sovereign's world. Emperor God and Emperor of Heaven reverse said nothing. The 8th heavens. Fong Ping frowned and sneered. Retard. He was mocking them. As for who he was mocking, no one knew. Old Zhang frowned as well. Since Heaven Emperor still has the energy to suppress these places, why did not save them? Fong Ping did not care. He sneered. Those 2 did not come to save them when they are not dead. Now that they are dead, those 2 are eager for him to exert more energy. How did you become a minister if you don't even know this? Old Zhang was speechless. Am I curious about this? I am just curious. He knows that those 2 are trying to weaken him. Why doesn't he do it now and just fight with them? Why does he have to wait for them to weaken him? Fong Ping transmitted his voice. Are you stupid? The celestial source is not mature yet. He probably can't seal off the entire origin. What if those 2 run away? Can't he just bear with it and catch them all at once? The point is, those 2 probably know what he's going to do. They are guarding against him now. Can he really let the celestial source mature? Fong Ping shrugged. How would he know what Heaven Emperor was thinking? The point was that Heaven Emperor could endure it. Even at this point, even when he knew that Emperor of Heaven Reverse was weakening him, he still endured it. The 10,000-year-old tortoise lived up to his name. The world quieted down. Heavens and earth were suppressed. The origin was no longer shaken. But there were 2 less sovereigns. The 12th heaven, one powerhouse after another walked in the air. Their shadows were projected and reflected in all directions. East Emperor, Earthly Emperor, Human Emperor, Hong Kuan, Li Zhu, Qin Fengqing. These people looked at each other across the air. They looked at Fong Ping and the others and did not continue forward. On Fong Ping's side, very soon, Book Fragrance, Cat, Heavenly King Subduing, and God Creation Envoy arrived. Not long after, a battered and exhausted big dog also came over. His aura was dispirited, but he raised his head proudly. The emperor was back. Although he was seriously injured, his Tao was out of control. Awesome. There was still one sovereign who did not move. Dragon transformation. This newly proven sovereign was under the 18th heaven at this time. He did not rush over. Now that he had arrived, it was hard to say who he would help now, other than Spirit Emperor, who was in the Celestial Source, and West Emperor, who was hiding. At this moment, all the sovereign powerhouses of the 3 realms were here. God Creation Envoy was too lazy to care about them. At this moment, he smiled happily and said, Fong Ping, let those guys open up the Tao, and let me go first. How about that? Fong Ping was speechless. He turned to look at him and said quickly, Previously, I thought you were really dead. Sure enough, the scourge lived for a long time. God creation envoy could not be bothered with him. Fang Ping smiled and said, "Is there any way to destroy the eighth heaven as well? The West Emperor's Tao fruit is here, and this guy is not here. It's better to destroy his origin, and maybe the Tao fruit will be destroyed as well." God creation envoy was speechless. How could it be that simple? Unless it's like the North Emperor and blew up the eighth heaven, then let's go. After saying that, Fang Ping was about to move. Old Zhang gave him a look and was a little speechless. Why did you want to destroy the West Emperor's Tao fruit? For no reason. Fang Ping said playfully, "Then forget it. Let's go to the fifth heaven and destroy the origin of Li Zhu." As soon as he said that, the God creation envoy's eyes lit up. He quickly broke through the barrier of heaven and earth and laughed loudly. "Let's go, I was just about to do this. Let that guy dare to sneak an attack on me." Old Zhang also chuckled. The few of them did not waste any time and quickly flew towards the fifth heaven. Li Zhu looked at the Earth Emperor. He heard the sound. These people did not hide it and deliberately said it for him to hear. The fifth heaven was where his Tao fruit was. He did not move the Tao fruit once it was really destroyed. Even if the Tao fruit was hidden very deeply, it would still be found. Normally, no one would do this. But at this point today, would these people have any scruples? But the Emperor of Earth was not in a hurry. Looking at those people flying toward the fifth heaven, he smiled and said softly, "It's okay. We have a lot of emperors in our family. If we kill you, our Hong family will fight them to the death. How many people will die? If so many people die, their Tao fruit will explode. Even the celestial emperor can't bear it, right?" As soon as he said that, sure enough, at this moment, in the sixth heaven, a force suddenly swept through heaven and earth. The celestial emperor's voice sounded again. "That's enough for today. Enough. Last time, after killing Emperor Nan, the celestial emperor and the others came out and said that it was enough and that they could call a truce. It was as if to them this was just a game. Both sides threw in their chess pieces. If they died, they died. It was almost over. Rest and recuperate, waiting for the next battle." Fang Ping sneered and blasted the heaven and earth with a punch. He did not care about him at all, and directly broke through to the fifth heaven. Old Zhang and the others looked at Fang Ping and frowned slightly. Should they not retreat? The other powerhouses had not made a move yet, and those who were still alive were all-powerful, apart from Hong Kuan and the others were all powerhouses with combat strengths over 100 million. At this time, a stalemate at the source would not help much. The 36th heaven, the God Emperor suddenly asked, "What has Hong been doing all these years?" The Heaven Emperor chuckled. "Who knows? Don't look at me like that. I did have a good relationship with him in the past, and we even cooperated. But someone like Hong will not risk his life for you and me. It's just cooperation. Who knows what he is thinking?" At the level of the earthly emperor and the others, there was no such thing as risking their lives. They all had their own purposes. The Heaven Emperor did not know about Li Zhu either. He really did not. If it were not for the fact that Li Zhu was almost killed today, he would not know that Li Zhu was the son of the earthly emperor. The God Emperor frowned. Hong has no reason to make Fang Ping his enemy. Why? The earthly emperor was smart. The earthly emperor was domineering, unruly, and arrogant, but that did not mean he was not smart. The earthly emperor today seemed to be kind, but in fact, he was more subtle and knew how to disguise himself. It was impossible for the earthly emperor to change his temperament. Why would such a smart person ask Li Zhu to ambush the God-crafting messenger? Was it good for him? Probably not. Even if he really killed the God-crafting messenger and destroyed his fruit of path, Li Zhu would still not be able to get out. Wasn't he afraid that Fang Ping and the others would get angry and take care of the earthly emperor, and Hong Kuan, the god emperor, suddenly smiled. This game was getting more and more interesting. Everyone wanted to be this chess player. Even if they were chess pieces, they were not willing to be chess pieces all the time. They were all planning something. But this was good. This was where the fun was. Otherwise, wouldn't it be boring to determine the result early on? The god emperor exhaled. The beast is gone. So is Xian. There are fewer and fewer old guys left. This game is almost over. Game. Maybe that was the case. On the day the origin appeared, the powerhouses of the three realms were used as chess pieces. They were trapped for 10,000 years. Life and death, in their eyes, was indeed a game. It was not that complicated. Who would be the final winner? Maybe none of them. So what if the Heaven Emperor won? So what if they won? It was just that they were a little unwilling and unwilling. This game that had lasted for 30,000 years didn't end well for them. Emperor Celestial reverse laughed. The little guys are passionate and energetic. These people remind me of Jean, and them back then. Emperor Celestial reverse laughed. Is it really possible to break this cage by combining the three Daos? The god Emperor shook his head. How would you know without trying? Your energy Tao. If you did not enter the origin, there might be hope. Emperor Celestial reverse laughed. It's not that simple. It's too obvious. That person is guarding against me. The three little guys are fine. At first, that guy did not care. Later, when he did, it was too late. He's been watching me all this time. I will not enter the origin. I am not young. I am not as strong as him. I cannot escape from his pursuit. I cannot escape from the seeds. Emperor Celestial Reverse could not help but exclaim, Jean, that kid, is beyond my expectation. The power of his great Tao seems to have been drawn away by him, including Mia and Ironhead. They seem to have lost a lot of power. The source of Fang Ping's energy should be from them. The god Emperor picked up his teacup. This kid is good at choosing his successor. Fang Ping is quite similar to him when he was young. Emperor Celestial reverse laughed. I don't think so. When Jean was young, he was quite well behaved. You are not his teacher. You don't know this. When Jean was young, he was also rebellious. He was hot-blooded and impulsive. The real change was when he broke through the origin ground. He must have realized our scheme, and his heart turned cold. Emperor Celestial Reverse heaved a sigh. Back then, I just wanted to test it out. I didn't expect that the three of them would reach that step, and Jean would go even further. If I had known this and told him the truth, maybe this wouldn't have happened. The Divine Emperor also seemed a bit regretful. When he died, he looked at me and smiled happily. I knew that he knew everything. Even if I told him the truth, he would not work with us. The God Emperor added, but he didn't want us to be happy. Before he came, he had taken away a lot of Tao energy. I don't know what to say about him. Emperor Celestial Reverse looked at the God Emperor, speechless. After a while, Emperor Celestial Reverse said, he was too outstanding. He was beyond our expectation and celestial emperors. He died because he knew he had to die. That day, Mia and Ironhead wanted to help, but the Heavenly Hound got in their way. Wasn't that guy's doing? Emperor Celestial Reverse chuckled. He was afraid too. He was afraid that John would break the origin ground. Alas, what a shame. The God Emperor was in a trance. Soon he smiled. He didn't gain any advantage. If it weren't for Jean, we wouldn't have it so easy. Emperor Celestial Reverse nodded. Speaking of schemes, Jean was not bad. That year, he repaired most of the cracks on your origin ground and freed you from some control. He did it on purpose, didn't he? Before Jean died, he cultivated his origin and suppressed his sufferings. The origin he cultivated was not celestial emperors. It was the origin of his three teachers, East Sovereign, God Emperor, and Human Sovereign. Thus, Jean broke celestial emperor's control. Jean returned the favor to his three teachers, broke celestial emperor's control, saved the system, and suppressed the sea of sufferings. Now that they thought about it, they were in a trance. Who could have known that a casual move could produce such a stunning result? The Emperor of Heaven reverse stopped thinking about this. Jean and Hong were close. Back then, Jean deliberately died in front of Hong. I always felt that Jean and Hong had said something. Do you think Hong is another chess piece left by Jean? I don't know. Emperor, Celestial Emperor, shook his head. It was hard to say, and he didn't want to guess either. None of the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors were simple. Jean had died for many years. Now, many tricks were being played. Both Emperor Celestial Emperor and Emperor Celestial Emperor were troubled. As for the appearance of Jean and the others, their strength, and their final choice, Emperor Celestial Emperor didn't expect it either. Emperor Celestial Emperor just wanted to find a way out. He didn't expect that these people would be so powerful and talented. Emperor Celestial Emperor exhaled again. The past was the past. He didn't want to dwell on it. Looking at the chessboard in front of him, Emperor Celestial Emperor was distracted. He was not like this in the past. Unfortunately, there was no going back. Emperor Celestial Emperor. Emperor Celestial Emperor sneered. If it weren't for this guy, he wouldn't have come this far. 30,000 years ago, on the day he fell into the trap, Qiong sensed something was wrong. It was not that Emperor Celestial Emperor's intention was too obvious, but he really didn't kill Einherjar. Emperor Celestial Emperor defeated Einherjar. Emperor Celestial Emperor sneered. He and Einherjar were close. That day, they were just practicing. As a result, some of Einherjar's energy leaked out. Emperor Celestial Emperor sensed that the broken path could be continued. Einherjar was curious as well. He volunteered to help. Though he lost a lot of energy, it was not fatal. Before he left, Einherjar was still able to fight. He died not long after he went back. The injury was too serious. Others might not know, but Qiong did. Einherjar was assassinated. Who killed him? Plus, on that day, Emperor Celestial Emperor absorbed a large amount of energy and entered the origin. Then, Hao killed God of Swords. All of a sudden, it was even more unexpected. God of Swords died as well. Both of them were dead. Outsiders might not know, but how could they not know? Neither of them wanted to kill the other two, but they died anyway. The martial god had been assassinated. Qiong did not have any evidence, so he could not make any conclusions. However, the sword god had been killed in front of many people. That day, Hao had said that it was just a spar, and that he did not kill him. However, no one believed it because the sword god had been killed in the process of his battle. He had died. Who in the 3 realms possessed such ability? There was a touch of ridicule in the divine emperor's eyes. In addition to that person, there was also the Yang god. But at that time, the Yang god was focused on chasing after the seed, so he had no time to care about these things. It went without saying who it was. When Sword God and Martial God died, he understood at that time. As he thought about this, the divine emperor suddenly frowned. These fellows are still not leaving? Do you really want to fight with Hong and the rest? While they were chatting, Fong Ping and the others did not leave. It seemed like he was really going to break the 5th layer of heaven. The divine emperor was a little puzzled. Was he tired of living? Do you really think the heavenly emperor will let you continue killing? What's more, are you a match for Hong? Chapter 1464. Fong Ping had not left even after slaughtering 2 emperors in a row. Instead, he continued on to the fifth layer of heaven. To be honest, this was beyond old Zhang and the others' expectations. According to what they said before, they should have left after killing the two of them. Fang Ping, was he really going to continue killing? If he continued to kill, who else could he kill? Apart from Hong Kuan and Li Zhu, the rest were either his own people or peerless experts with combat power over 100 million. Could he kill them? Even though they had killed 2 human emperors, they didn't gain much from it. Other than the God creation envoy who got rid of the crack, no one else did. It was probably the same for the others. Even if he killed it, he might not be able to keep the Tao fruit. What was Fang Ping thinking? Fang Ping advanced all the way, breaking open heaven and earth. Soon, he entered the fifth heaven. The others also entered one after another. A group of people charged over. Behind them, Li Zhu slightly frowned. What was Fang Ping thinking? He was not considered strong, at least to Fang Ping, and he did not really kill the God-crafting envoy. Was there a need for Fang Ping to offend them for this? The attitude of the earthly sovereign was also very clear. You guys fight your own battles, and we'll watch our own battles. It doesn't matter. What happened before was just a misunderstanding. If they really fought now, could Fang Ping and the others win? The fifth heaven. Fang Ping was not in a hurry to destroy this piece of heaven and earth. He looked down at the emperors who were chasing after him, his eyes flickering. East Emperor, Earthly Emperor, Human Emperor, Hong Kuan, Li Zhu, and Qin Fengqing on their side. Fang Ping, Martial King, Heavenly King Garrison, Divine Envoy, Scholarly, Heavenly Hound, and Grey Cat were even more numerous. Of course, combat strength did not depend on the number of people. Over there, 3 of them had broken through 100 million. Fang Ping floated in the air, saying indifferently, "Nowadays, more and more people are dying, and there are fewer and fewer emperors. There's no need to scheme anymore. I'm just a little curious and have some doubts. I wonder if everyone can dispel them for me." Emperor Dong Huang walked in the air. He smiled and said, "What do you want to ask?" "It's simple. Are the few of you traveling alone, or are you working with someone?" Fang Ping said calmly, "At this point, my attitude toward the emperors of the 3 realms is still a little unclear. Can everyone help me clear up my doubts? Those who stood in our way are all dead, and Emperor Shi who didn't die is now hiding somewhere. The rest of them have a clear attitude. I don't know what you guys want to do." Dong Huang smiled and said, "Is it important? Didn't you say you were going to kill all of them? Then we'll just kill them all. That way, we won't have to worry about these things, right?" Dong Huang is right. Fang Ping chuckled. "But I'm still a little curious. The others, including Do and the Emperor God, I know that they've joined forces to fight against the Celestial Emperor, but you 3 old fellows, to be honest, I don't know whose side you're on." His attitude was so vague that it was impossible to tell. "I couldn't help but be curious. Before you die, I want to get to the bottom of this so that it doesn't become one of the great unsolved cases of the 3 realms." The few of them could not help but laugh. Dong Huang said softly, "We're all living for ourselves. There's no such thing as standing on anyone's side. You new martial artists say that you seek survival, but so do we. We're all seeking survival and struggling. Whoever survives this tribulation will be free." Dong Huang felt a little emotional. He looked at Fang Ping and chuckled. Qiong and Do joined forces because the Celestial Emperor is too powerful. They had no choice but to join forces to resist the Celestial Emperor. As for us, Dong Huang smiled and said, "I'm just forcing myself to stick together, lest we all become scapegoats." "You're in cahoots?" Fang Ping raised an eyebrow. "There are people from the Celestial Emperor among you, right?" Dong Huang laughed. "You mean the people who persuaded Xian to hand over the Tao fruit?" "Huh." Fang Ping was stunned. How straightforward. Dong Huang laughed. It's my projection. I'm considered one of the celestial emperor's people, right? Maybe. Dong Huang chuckled. I have some cooperation with Seed. I'm the middleman between Seed and the celestial emperor. Therefore, on Xian's side, I'll hand over the Dao fruit, if he can. If he doesn't, I won't lose anything. Consider it as fulfilling some promises. Of course, it doesn't stop us from huddling together. They have their way of living, and we have ours too. Dong Huang said it too straightforwardly. He had even self-destructed. Dong Huang did not care, Emperor Ren Huang did not care, and Earthly Sovereign did not care. Emperor Ren Huang chuckled. In this 3 realms among the emperors, who hasn't worked with Seed before? Everyone just pretended to be confused. Those who were really confused were all dead. Those who weren't were too lazy to point it out. Celestial Emperor thought that it was a secret that Seed worked with him. But that guy, the Seed, told everyone it saw. It said that it worked with Celestial Emperor and asked us if we wanted to work with it because it doesn't like Celestial Emperor. Celestial Emperor is too strong, too gloomy, too ambitious, and hard to control. Emperor Ren Huang laughed. We've probably heard this before. It's fine if we just listen to it. Can we really take it to heart? Fang Ping was stunned. Emperor Ren Huang laughed again. In the eyes of Seed, it doesn't matter who lives to the end, so it doesn't necessarily want Celestial Emperor to live. Whoever lives or dies, it doesn't really lose anything. If Cheong Hedu can kill Celestial Emperor, then the Seed won't think anything is wrong. I've said that to it. 1 death is 1 less. The Seed's ultimate goal is to take back all the power bestowed by the 3 realms. Everyone knows this. Fang Ping frowned. He did not expect these people to pretend to be confused. Of course, there were some who were really confused, but those who were really confused were all dead. There was also that old guy Yangshen. This old guy was probably not confused. He was just too lazy to talk nonsense with the Seed. Every time they met, they would probably start fighting. The Seed also thought that this guy was hard to deal with, so it ignored him and kept running around with him. Fang Ping was indeed a little surprised that Emperor Ren Huang said this, but he still frowned slightly. If we destroy the human race, the Seed will lose its intelligence. It will be in danger too. Isn't it worried that you guys will join forces to deal with it first? The Seed was stirring up trouble everywhere. These guys all knew that. Why didn't they join forces to destroy the human race first? Fang Ping could not figure this out either. That's easy to say. Destroy the human race and harvest the Seed. Emperor Ren Huang suddenly laughed. The others laughed too. They all looked at Fang Ping as if they were looking at an idiot. Fang Ping's expression was dark. Emperor Dong Huang chuckled. Fang Ping, do you know why we don't destroy the human race? Do you know why, even though we know that the Seed is stirring up trouble, we still kill each other? We can't wait to kill everyone else, to be the last survivor. Emperor Dong Huang chuckled, including the Celestial Emperor. He said that he created the celestial source to destroy the human race and capture the Seed, but we know what he wants to do. The Seed is secondary. Killing us, killing everyone in the 3 realms, is actually the key. Fang Ping seemed to have grasped a clue, but he was a little dazed and did not quite understand. Seeing that he did not understand, Emperor Ren Huang continued. Fang Ping, actually, no one is lying to you. If we destroy the human race, the Seed will really lose its intelligence. But the Seed is not afraid. Fang Ping continued to frown. You, Emperor Ren Huang sighed. You are blinded by a single leaf. The human race, the human race. Emperor Ren Huang laughed helplessly. The human race, do you understand now? The human race in the 3 realms is not just a small group like you. It's not just the neo-martial artists. Aren't we humans? Boom. Fang Ping really understood this time. His face was full of shock. Emperor Ren Huang laughed. You understand now? So destroying the human race, destroying the seed's intelligence, and capturing the seed are just fishing for the moon in the water. They are just saying it to yourself to comfort yourself. The human race. So are we. As soon as these words came out, Fang Ping completely understood this time. The seed was not afraid at all. The human race was not only in the human world. Chu Wu was a human, the emperor was also a human, and Heavenly Emperor Yangshen was also a human. You want to destroy the human race. Kill who? Kill all of them. This was the destruction of the human race, the destruction of the seed's intelligence. So, from the beginning, these emperors knew all this and did not have any ideas on the seed. It was not realistic. It was too contradictory. If the human race was destroyed, the seed would lose its intelligence. But if the human race was destroyed, what was left of the three realms? The demon race? Let the demon race become the master of the three realms again. But the human race of the three realms was immortal Ray. The seed was intelligent and extremely powerful. You could not do anything to it at all. It had nothing to fear. Fang Ping's expression changed. Emperor Ren Huang laughed. So, we are only seeking survival and survival. We can't attack the seed, repair the source or destroy the source. It depends on each person's means. Who dies and who lives, it depends on the means. I'm afraid there is no way to completely solve the problem of the source. We can only live by sewing and patching. Heavenly Emperor wants to destroy us, and we want to stuff Heavenly Emperor into the source to mend the whole. The earthly sovereign said with a smile, everyone has the same idea. If we kill one, there will be one less. With one less, there will be less competition, less pressure, and more hope for survival. At this moment, Emperor Ren Huang was like the old man next door, smiling brightly. Whoever dies, it's a good thing for others. If Cheonghe dies, it's not bad to mend the source. If Heavenly Emperor dies, it can also mend it. If we die, it's the same. Of course, don't let the Tao fruit explode. If it explodes, it will benefit the seed, and it will recover the power. Of course, it's also a good thing if it explodes. It can suppress Heavenly Emperor. He's too strong. We can't beat him. If this goes on, we will be the ones to die sooner or later. Emperor Ren Huang was too lazy to play dumb. He laughed. So, what you said about who is on the same side is not accurate. If there is a chance, I hope Jihahao dies too. Mend the source and see if we can make do for tens of thousands of years. After tens of thousands of years, our lifespan may reach the end, and we don't care about this anymore. The seed is actually not in a hurry. If you don't die now, you will die sooner or later. It's also a good thing if you all die. But we live for a long time. This guy is probably a little impatient. He keeps provoking us to kill each other. Emperor Ren Huang smiled. Do you understand now? Fang Ping frowned and said coldly, So, you're happy to see me kill some people? Sort of. Emperor Ren Huang laughed. It's not a loss either way. Killing one is one less. It's a good thing to explode the Tao fruit. It can suppress Heavenly Emperor. It's also a good thing not to explode. It can mend the source. It's a good thing either way. So it's better to send them on their way. Emperor Ren Huang said and sighed. It's just a game, the seed's game. But everyone has to take it seriously. If you don't take it seriously, then you'll be like those beginners. You have to fall into the trap whether you want or not. Otherwise, you'll die early, Emperor Ren Huang said, and laughed again. Do you hear that sound? The Beast Emperor has fallen. The North Emperor has fallen. It's idle, so it's not bad to watch a show. You know it's watching a show, but what can you do? Emperor Ren Huang said lazily. So, in the end, I can only accept my fate. If there's really a ruthless person who destroys the three realms and finally commits suicide so that the seed will completely become a fellow without spiritual intelligence, then it can be solved. These words made Fang Ping's face turn ugly. Heavenly King Jun and the others also looked at each other, their faces solemn. Exterminating the human race. This human race actually included these ancient powerhouses. No wonder these guys were not interested in exterminating the human race and capturing the seed. Instead, they were more interested in internal strife. Previously, they thought that the sun god and heavenly King Jun were in the human world, so these people did not dare. However, they had already reached the point of killing each other, to the point where they could not wait to kill everyone. Were they really afraid of the sun god and the others? Exterminating the human race. All the human race, whether you were the ancient human race or the current human race. Emperor Donghuang said faintly, the human race is too broad. Therefore, in the past, some people did not even want to be human. They would rather be immortals or gods. But so what if they changed their names? The Earth realm was actually a test subject. They wanted to experiment and modify the human race to see if they could avoid this. As Emperor Donghuang spoke, he shook his head and said, in the end, yes, the human race in the Earth realm is different from the human race in the human world, but in reality, there are still some who can't escape the control of the seed. At this point, what else can we do? Emperor Donghuang smiled and said, there's no other way. We can only put the solution on the source land, solve the problem of the source land, restore peace to the three realms, and let the source land last a little longer. Fang Ping's expression was solemn. If that's the case, the wisdom of the seed can't be destroyed, and you guys can't escape. Then why not be more peaceful and calmly accept the arrival of the end of your lifespan? Emperor Donghuang chuckled and said, you said it yourself. There's no escape, no solution, so naturally it's better to live happily. Now, everyone is scheming against each other. I can't wait to kill you today to make up for it, and the day after tomorrow to make up for it. How can there be peace? Moreover, the source's flaws are getting more and more serious. 10,000 years ago, it reached its peak, and we have completely become prisoners. 30,000 years ago, it was still okay. We could still move around outside for a while. Later, even our real bodies can't go out. Clones, no matter how real a clone is, it's just a clone. You don't even have the right to see this world. Are you willing to do that? Wait for the end of my lifespan? Emperor Donghuang shook his head and sighed. Don't you see the sea of misery? If you don't fix the loopholes will get bigger and bigger. Who gave you the chance to wait for the end of your lifespan? Even if you were given the chance, would you be willing to be a prisoner for the rest of your life? And the kind where you can't even take a breather. That's too frustrating. You might as well find a way to kill the others and go out and enjoy yourself for a while. Even if I'm destroyed in the end, I won't be destroyed in this boundless source of darkness. Fang Ping was speechless. Emperor Donghuang looked at him and smiled. Do you think you can escape this? It's impossible. You haven't gotten rid of the source land's control. It's just that it's not time yet. When the time comes, you will also become a prisoner like us. Fang Ping was speechless. At this moment, there was some bitterness in his heart. They were all a bunch of prisoners. The so-called completely solving the source land disaster was simply a joke. Of course, Fang Ping got rid of everything very soon. For Emperor Donghuang and the others, this was very hopeless. But for him, there was not much of a difference. These people wanted to exterminate the human race and destroy the seed intelligence. Now that they were included, it was actually a good thing. This was probably also the reason why the human race still existed after so many years. because they knew that exterminating the human race was not very useful. The human race's purpose now was actually to cultivate martial artists, strengthen the immortal source, and fix the loopholes. Emperor Donghuang saw that he was deep in thought and smiled. Actually, there's still a way that I didn't mention last time. The Celestial Emperor wants to kill all of us, but we don't have to be like him. The catacombs here is actually a testing ground for Do. He cultivates the path of energy. Once he's mature, he'll harvest a bunch to fix his loopholes. His days are quite free. We and Qiong, that's because Jean repaired some cracks back then. We benefited and had more freedom. Do only achieved Dao later and could also get rid of the source land. It's because he kept harvesting those martial artists in the catacombs. Emperor Donghuang smiled. The human world can actually be used like this too, harvesting generation after generation. Fangping, when we first built the immortal source, our plan was actually like this. Immortal source, fix the loopholes. Cultivate another generation of martial artists, then harvest and fix again. Cultivate again, harvest again, fix again. Emperor Donghuang said softly, "This is the goal of the immortal source." In the end, the Celestial Emperor just had to make trouble, making things difficult for everyone. Even I had no choice but to oppose the Celestial Emperor, although there was still cooperation, but back then I really stood on the side of the Celestial Emperor. Now, that's not so firm. Harvest? Fangping's eyes were cold. King Wu said coldly, rearing humans and harvesting humans. These people knew that exterminating the human race could not solve the problem, and actually had such an idea. Harvest, then raise, and harvest again. Emperor Donghuang smiled. This is not just my idea alone. In the past, everyone had the same idea. Otherwise, why would the immortal source plan be launched 10,000 years ago? Of course, the Celestial Emperor had his own selfish motives. Otherwise, this time it would really be a harvest. The Celestial Emperor did not use the immortal source to fix the loopholes, but to trap and kill them. This was the reason why the immortal source plan had so many problems. If the Celestial Emperor really used it to fix the loopholes, then this scene might not have happened. The Celestial Emperor's plan to cultivate the immortal source to maturity had always been destroyed by these people. Fangping no longer paid attention to Emperor Donghuang and did not look at the Emperor. Instead, he looked at the Emperor Earth. At this moment, the earthly Emperor was also looking at him. Seeing Fangping looking at him, he smiled and said, "What are you looking at me for?" "Fangping, don't mess around. My Hong family has a lot of people. If you really destroy the source of Li Zhu, we won't be polite. Although I'm not as hot-tempered as I used to be, I'm not someone to be trifled with." Fangping was still looking at him, his eyes flickering. The earthly Emperor smiled and said, "I already said don't look, but you still look. It's useless to look. I really had a bad temper back then. I'd rather die than live." The earthly Emperor looked emotional. "Now that I'm old, I'm enjoying the joy of family. If it was back then, if I had the strength, if I had enough strength, I would directly destroy the 3 realms and myself. I would let the seeds play games and die together." The earthly Emperor curled his lips. "That was my idea back then. See, these few people are stopping me and wanting to kill me. What a pity that idiot John refused to cooperate with me. Destroy the 3 realms and let them die together." The earthly Emperor was very regretful. At that time, there was really hope of success. But that bastard John wouldn't listen to me no matter what. He insisted that my idea was too extreme, too domineering, Mother asterisk her. The earthly Emperor scolded. "This idiot, he made me suffer so much. Fortunately, I'm old now. Think about it. I've lived a free, an unfettered life for 8,000 years, but I've earned it. Fang Ping frowned and looked at him, still silent. After a while, Fang Ping suddenly frowned and said, "Are you very close to Zhan?" The earthly emperor laughed and said, "Of course. Otherwise, why do you think he has to persuade me? He's stronger than me. He could just kill me directly. Is there any need to persuade me? It's because our relationship is too good." I opposed his plan, so he flew into a rage out of humiliation and flipped out at me at the 100 Emperors banquet. You see, he actually flipped out at me in front of so many people. That's too much, right? The earthly emperor laughed and said, "But I definitely won't agree to his stupid plan." At this moment, beside Fang Ping, Xu Xiang's face was livid. She scolded angrily. "Master did everything for the 3 realms. If you want to destroy the world, of course, Master won't agree to it. If we do as Master says, the 3 realms can at least be peaceful for tens of thousands of years." The earthly emperor was surprised and said, "I'm not living comfortably. Why should I let the 3 realms live comfortably for tens of thousands of years?" The earthly emperor was surprised and said with amusement, "Moreover, without power, we're just waiting to die. He might as well just kill us. His plan is **T. It's impossible for me to agree to it." He was extremely disdainful of Zhan's plan. Having said that, he said, "Fang Ping, hurry up and go home. Don't make a scene. When you're a little stronger, you can just come and kill a few more people. Why are you still staying here? Do you really want to compete with me?" His attitude was like he was lecturing his grandson. Everyone who heard him frowned. Seeing that Fang Ping still did not move, he was a little impatient. "Do you really think there's no one in the Hong family? Have you seen the 4 emperors in one family?" Fang Ping was slightly shocked. The next moment, the earthly emperor roared, "Little you, what are you waiting for? Let others see how strong the Hong family is." At this moment, below, in the catacombs continent, Hong Yu frowned slightly and flew out of the heavenly court. Previously, he had already died and was brought here by the earthly emperor. Not many people knew that he had returned. At this moment, Hong Yu was frowning and looking at the sky. No one knew what he was thinking. Hearing the earthly emperor's voice, he sighed softly and stepped into the air. He was already a powerhouse close to the 3 doors. After absorbing that living star, he was now only 1 step away from the 3 doors. Compared to people like Li Zhu and Zhang Tao, his foundation was much deeper. Rumble! With a loud bang, the 3rd door was smashed. Hong Yu had smashed 3 doors in an instant. At this moment, the earthly emperor chuckled and looked at Fang Ping. "Fang Ping, you dare to offend me because you don't know how strong I am. Otherwise, you would have run away with your tail between your legs." As he said that, the earthly emperor snorted and threw something out. It was a palace. The palace grew bigger and bigger. With a rumble, it smashed 3 doors and fell onto the cliff. Rumble! An incomparably huge and dazzling golden palace appeared in front of them. The heavenly court. Someone said with a frown. This was the heavenly court of the past. Unexpectedly, it was not completely destroyed and was taken away by the earthly emperor. "Son, come and prove your Tao. It's that simple for the Hong family to prove our Tao. 1 family with 4 emperors. Ha ha ha." The earthly emperor was arrogant and flamboyant. On the other side, Hong Yu had a complicated look in his eyes. In the end, he sighed and stepped into the palace. With a rumble, he smashed 3 doors and entered the source ground. In the source ground, there was a place where no one was present. Fruits were forming rapidly. The earthly emperor looked satisfied. He extended his hand and waved. Before long, Hong Yu was brought over. "You see this? I have 3 sons, and all of them are emperors. At this moment, the earthly emperor was extremely arrogant. Are you comparing numbers? Our family has many too. Fang Ping, are you convinced? One family with 4 emperors. Apart from the earthly emperor's family, who else could it be? The others frowned. Emperor Donghuang frowned slightly. The emperor looked at Hong again, and again, then at Hong Yu, and the other 2. No one knew what he was thinking, but he did not speak. As for Fang Ping, he was still looking at the earthly emperor. His eyes flickered. No one knew what he was thinking. The source ground was quiet. In the world, there seemed to be only the earthly emperor's laughter. His laughter was so wanton and flamboyant, domineering, unyielding, arrogant, savage. Someone once said that Fang Ping was like the earthly emperor, the same domineering, the same arrogant, the same unwillingness to bow. Chapter 1465. Earthly sovereigns' loud laughter resounded. For emperors, while laughing, earthly sovereigns suddenly muttered, "Damn, according to what Xian said, it's actually 4 prisoners." Heaven and earth fell silent. Prisoners. Emperors were all prisoners. And life imprisonment. Earthly sovereign muttered again. Fang Ping's expression kept changing. "I hope I can't even see it." Earthly sovereign seemed a little crazy. Soon he gritted his teeth and said, "But I'm the emperor, the invincible emperor. I've also contributed to the 3 realms. More than 8,000 years ago, I told John to fight it out. It's better to break out of prison than to be a prisoner. It's better to destroy the world." But this bastard didn't agree. Donghuang frowned slightly and growled. Earthly sovereign looked up at him and raised his eyebrows. "How? Why did you call me? When I was dominating the 3 realms, you didn't even dare to fart. What? Do you want to challenge me?" Earthly sovereign was strong, very domineering. After becoming an emperor, there were not many people he liked. Among the 3 emperors, he only looked up to Jean because he felt that only Jean was qualified to be his friend. Emperor of Batian, Emperor of Annihilation, just a weakling. Hong, was so arrogant, so flamboyant. Of course, he was only arrogant to the powerhouses. The others were not qualified. In the eyes of outsiders, earthly sovereign was considered a good emperor. The realm he ruled was relatively stable. Earthly sovereign was not interested in bullying the weak. He almost did not care about the affairs of the realm. He only cared about the powerhouses. Donghuang did not say anything, still frowning. Earthly sovereign laughed and looked at Fang Ping. Suddenly, he smiled playfully. "Fang Ping, let me tell you a secret." "What?" Fang Ping asked, frowning. The realm has been invading the human world." "I did it." Fang Ping frowned again. Earthly sovereign laughed. "Hong Yu, my son, of course, will say whatever I tell him to say. The seed of rebirth is in the human world. So, kill. Does it feel good to destroy the human world?" Fang Ping's face was gloomy, but he did not speak. "Li Zhu led the Heavenly Plant's royal court and has been invading the human world. Does it feel good?" Fang Ping said nothing. Some people say that it's good as long as the 3 realms are at peace." The Emperor of Earth snorted as if he was disdainful. "But I understand that only chaotic times can produce ruthless and strong people. Otherwise, if the 3 realms were at peace, would Fang Ping and Zhang Tao be as strong as they are today? If there's no pressure, there's no motivation. We should have wiped out most of the human race and let you struggle again. Perhaps the effect will be better." Zhang Tao's face turned green as he said coldly, "What's the point of all this?" "Meaning?" The earthly sovereign said with a smile, "What's the point? It's a pity that this fellow creation actually didn't die. Truthfully speaking, I'm prepared to annihilate creation, annihilate the fragrance of books, annihilate the heavenly hound, and even annihilate the azure cat." Everyone's expressions changed slightly. "What a pity. It's a bad start. The Emperor of Earth frowned and said, "It's all because of this disappointing kid." Bang! The earthly sovereign's slap made Li Zhu stagger, and the back of his head bulged. At this moment, even if everyone was furious, they couldn't help but be stunned, and they even wanted to laugh. Li Zhu was extremely sinister. He was always calm in the face of difficulties, but today he was slapped by the earthly sovereign, and the back of his head bulged as if he was slapping his own son. No, he was slapping his own son. The earthly sovereign was slapping his own son. Li Zhu's expression changed, and it was extremely complicated. Li Zhu didn't say a word, letting the earthly sovereign slap him until he was dizzy. The earthly sovereign slapped Li Zhu, then looked at Fang Ping and the others and said with a smile, "I think people will only break out when they are in a desperate situation. Only by killing your companions can you become stronger, and it will be more fun, but I didn't expect that I wouldn't succeed. What a pity." The Heavenly King raised his eyebrows and said, "Old Hong, what are you trying to say?" The earthly sovereign glanced at him and said grumpily, "You don't have the right to speak. Go away. Tell your master to come and look at you. It's been tens of thousands of years, and you think you can defeat me? You want to fight for the second place. I thought you were good back then, but now you're really useless." The Heavenly King's expression changed. He was called useless. Fang Ping exhaled and said in a low voice, "You've said so much. Are you done?" "Not yet." The earthly sovereign laughed and said, "Fang Ping, some people say that you are a genius, a monster, very domineering, very powerful. Some even compare you with me. Do you think you have the right to say that?" Fang Ping narrowed his eyes. "Do you want to try?" I really want to try." The earthly sovereign laughed and said, "Today I brought my whole family here, and I'm ready to try. One sect for emperors. Do you want to fight?" The earthly sovereign laughed and said, "You don't dare? Hong Kuen's sect has killed a lot of humans. The Heavenly Plant's royal court, led by Li Zhu, has killed even more humans. The new Heavenly Court, led by Hong Yu, and the earthly Emperor God dynasty, have killed even more humans." Zhang Tao was furious. This was the truth, especially when Li Zhu led the Heavenly Plant's royal court. A war that lasted for hundreds of years broke out between the two sides, and too many people died. Hong Kuen's evil sect and the new Heavenly Court that was established later had brought many casualties to the human race. Whether the earthly sovereign was deliberately provoking them or not, this was the truth, the bloody truth. The hands of this family were stained with the blood of the human race. The earthly sovereign, however, did not care. At this moment, he looked back at his sons and said with a smile, "My son, do you dare to fight with them? Kuen, you fight Tengu. Don't you two have a grudge against each other? Today, take revenge. Li Zhu, you fight Zhao. This old thing actually wanted to kill you just now. You play with that cat. I'll handle the rest." The earthly sovereign seemed a little excited. He said with a smile, "Zhan, Fang Ping, Zhang Tao, oh, and Xu Xiang. How about the four of you play with me?" He wanted to provoke a fight, initiating a fight, 1 against 4. At this moment, even the East Emperor and Emperor Renhuang were a little solemn. Hong was a little strange today. What was he trying to do? At this moment, the Celestial Emperor's voice sounded again. "The fight, it's time to end." The earthly sovereign raised his head, looked at the sky, and sneered. "Is this your playground? You want it to end?" Fang Ping, this kid, insisted on breaking through the fifth heaven. "My family and they are absolutely irreconcilable. Take this opportunity to fight. Are you not convinced?" The Celestial Emperor's voice was much colder. "Hong, after so many years, you still haven't restrained yourself." "Restrained?" The earthly sovereign laughed. "I've restrained myself a lot. If it was in the past, I would go directly to the core of the source and smash your mouth. What are you talking about? Come out if you have the guts. If you don't have the guts, come out and talk to me. Are you going to bite me? Very arrogant. Insufferably arrogant. On the opposite, Fong Ping suddenly laughed. I really want to see you from 10,000 years ago. Unfortunately, there's no chance. No, you can also see today. Do you want to see? Fong Ping felt the pressure. He really felt the pressure. Do you want to see? Yes. Will I die? Maybe. He looked at the earthly sovereign, and the earthly sovereign was also looking at him. There was a smile on his old face, a smile that was not very serious. This was the enemy, the great enemy of the human race. The disaster of the human race was actually caused by the earthly sovereign's family. Maybe not all of them, but this family was the leader of it. But for a moment, Fong Ping felt that if the earthly sovereign knew him 10,000 years ago, they might become comrades and friends, instead of becoming enemies now. How? Gee, both of you leave. This is our war. Get lost. The earthly sovereign suddenly became a little impatient. He looked at the two people and asked them to leave. The two people looked dignified. At this time, the earthly sovereign's body was gradually growing taller. His somewhat stooped and thin body was gradually filling up. His old face was also recovering its youth. Vaguely, there were some shadows of the past. Very handsome. Hong Kuen and the others were very handsome. As their father, the earthly sovereign obviously would not be bad. At this moment, he was gradually recovering his youth. Domineering. Fong Ping and the others seemed to be dazzled. They saw an ancient emperor walking toward them. The earthly sovereign wore a golden crown, a golden yellow robe, and 9 dragon boots on his feet. In his hand, a long sword appeared, the earthly sovereign sword. Fong Ping. The voice was no longer old. The earthly sovereign's voice was deep. He said lightly, "Do you want to try? If you don't want to, you can get lost now." Boom. Vitality erupted. The void was torn apart. In the rear, Emperor Dong Huang and Emperor Ren Huang were shaken back a little. In front of the two of them, a black crack appeared. "I told you to get lost. Why don't you get lost? Do you want me to do it myself?" The earthly sovereign did not turn his head. His tone was overbearing, as if these two powerhouses with more than 100 million combat power were just ordinary people. Emperor Dong Huang and Emperor Ren Huang both frowned and weighed the pros and cons. Soon, the two gradually retreated. On the other side, Qin Fengqing saw this, smiled, and also began to retreat. The earthly sovereign's family was a little abnormal today. Since Li Zhu ambushed and killed the god-crafting envoy, it was a little abnormal, and the feeling that the earthly sovereign gave them was that he had been looking forward to this battle for a long time. The heavenly king and the others looked at Fong Ping. Fight! The earthly sovereign was very strong. At this moment, the earthly sovereign gave them a feeling that even a few weaker emperors were suffocating. Even the heavenly king felt an incomparably huge pressure, and King Wu also looked dignified. 1 against 4, this was the earthly sovereign's choice. Fong Ping took a deep look at the earthly sovereign and grinned. "It seems that you can't wait. I hope you can surprise me a little. Bullying noobs, that's too boring." The earthly sovereign smiled, faintly. "I want to see who is wrong." Who is wrong? Words that had a profound meaning. Fong Ping was not an indecisive person. At this moment, he smiled and said, "Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. Senior God-crafting envoy, kill Li Zhu. Heavenly hound, swallow Hong Kuen. Cat, you go and entangle Hong Yu." He followed the battle plan of the earthly sovereign, and the rest of the people besieged the earthly sovereign. At this moment, Even the unruly heavenly hound felt the pressure and seriousness. It did not refute, but stared at Hong Kuan, its eyes flashing fiercely. It had a great grudge against Hong Kuan. Hong Kuan trapped it for 3,000 years, studied it like a specimen, and almost deprived it of its Tao. It had wanted to deal with Hong Kuan for a long time. Today there was a chance. The God-crafting envoy did not talk nonsense. He looked at Li Zhu and grinned sinisterly. You just escaped, and now you still want to escape? Since there is a decision, the earthly sovereign chuckled. The next moment, he stepped into the void, and with a boom, the void shattered. The sixth heaven. He, Fong Ping, and the others fell into the sixth heaven in an instant. In the sky, the other 6 emperors broke out in an instant. Boom. 6 virtual shadows shone between heaven and earth. The moment the earthly sovereign took Fong Ping and the others away, everyone knew that the battle had begun. The earthly sovereign gave them a chance and time. They were all a group of powerhouses who had just proven their Tao, so the difference in strength would not be too big. The 6 of them, except for Cat, were considered weak emperors. As for Tsang Mao, it was not a killing machine. Therefore, these 3 battles were evenly matched. More than 8,000 years. In the 6th heaven, the earthly sovereign no longer cared about the battle above. He looked at the people opposite him and said with a smile, I have waited for you for more than 8,000 years. You, don't let me down. Boom. The heaven-suppressing king was the first to explode, punching out. Fong Ping, Zhang Tao, and Xu Xiang attacked almost at the same time. Too weak. The earthly sovereign's eyes were as sharp as a knife. He said softly, weak people like you are not qualified to change the 3 realms. Why don't you just die in my hands? Weak. Yes, weak. Fast. Unparalleled speed. Xu Xiang did not even see it clearly. A knife fell. Crack. With a crisp sound, the ruler in her hand was smashed away. In the next moment, the knife swept past, and Xu Xiang's head fell off, separated from her body. Puff! The earthly sovereign's knife came again, about to cut Xu Xiang's head. At this moment, a book appeared in front of Xu Xiang, the Book of Great Tao. Boom! The Book of Great Tao trapped North Emperor before. North Emperor tried his best, but could not break it, but this knife slashed the Book of Great Tao into pieces with a bang. Powerful! This was the earthly sovereign. Fong Ping's knife was fast, but not as fast as the earthly sovereign. The earthly sovereign almost crippled Xu Xiang in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Fong Ping's long knife fell. The earthly sovereign did not withdraw his knife, but raised his hand and punched Fong Ping. Boom! A loud noise was heard. Fong Ping retreated, and the long knife trembled, making a metallic sound. That's it. You still want to hide your strength from me. The earthly sovereign's eyes were cold. You can deal with Ji Xiang, but you dare to hide your strength against me. Do you really think I'm that useless? Boom. Before Fong Ping could say anything, the earthly sovereign punched again. The entire 6th heaven was trembling and shaking. Kill. Fong Ping did not dare to hide his strength. At this moment, he also went all out. With a slash, the shadow of the knife covered the 3 realms. At this moment, above the firmament of the 3 realms, a long knife seemed to be tearing the 3 realms apart, descending from the source. Trembling. At this moment, the martial artists of the 3 realms, no matter how strong, felt a little trembling, too strong, as if they would be torn to pieces by the long knife in the next moment. Not enough. A mocking laugh came. Boom. A fist directly smashed the shadow of the knife. The earthly sovereign was terrifyingly powerful at this moment. His left hand formed a palm, slapping toward the suppressing heavenly king, and his right hand formed a fist, bombarding Fong Ping. The earthly sovereign's knife was controlled by mentality, and each slash was killing Shu Xiang. The martial king had to rush over to help. Shu Xiang, who was still considered strong, was in a precarious situation now, as if he could be killed at any time. This was the earthly sovereign, one of the overlords of the world in the past, a peerless powerhouse who dared to fight the emperors of the three realms. In the fifth heaven, 6 powerhouses fought. However, the movement was far less intense and shocking than the battle between the 5 powerhouses below. That day, the divine emperor fought 1 against 9, including the earthly sovereign. However, the earthly sovereign of that day and the earthly sovereign of today were completely different. Even though Fang Ping had unleashed his powerful strength, he was still completely suppressed at this moment. The earthly sovereign only had 1 fist, but this fist was harder and fiercer than a divine weapon. Punch after punch, Fang Ping was almost out of breath. On the other side, the suppressing heavenly king used his fist to attack the palm, but the earthly sovereign's single palm suppressed him to the point where he could not even lift his head. The suppressing heavenly king was also extremely shocked. After being shocked, he shouted angrily, "Are you looking down on me?" With an angry roar, the suppressing heavenly king's body suddenly grew. 10 meters, 100 meters, 1,000 meters, 10,000 meters. Giant! The suppressing heavenly king roared, and the source energy from all directions quickly gathered toward him. Unity, unification. I am the king of the 3 realms. Rumble. Heaven and earth trembled, and the 3rd heaven was also shaking violently. At this moment, endless power surged from the 3rd heaven and quickly poured into his body. The suppressing heavenly king's aura flourished. Almost in the blink of an eye, the surging vitality even vaguely caught up with Fang Ping. The earthly sovereign was indifferent. This is the 2-body unity. Unfortunately, it's still too weak. As soon as he finished speaking, a punch blasted Fang Ping into the void. He turned sideways and punched at the suppressing heavenly king. The fist smashed out, and the other hand was so fast that the suppressing heavenly king had no time to dodge. Puff! The powerful body was like tofu, and the earthly sovereign's left hand turned into a claw, piercing directly into the flesh. With a puff, a large piece of flesh was clawed by the earthly sovereign, revealing the white jade bones. The fist followed, bombarding the exposed bones. The suppressing heavenly king also swung his fist down. 1 fist was as big as a star, and the other was just a normal person's fist. However, at this moment, the earthly sovereign punched out and collided with the giant fist. Boom! Flesh and blood flew everywhere. The suppressing heavenly king's huge body kept retreating. The flesh and blood on his fist were already gone, and cracks appeared on the huge bones of his hand. As for the earthly sovereign, he took a few steps back, ignored him, turned around, and punched again. Behind him, Fang Ping was like a ghost, and the Changdao was already close to his neck. Bang! The Changdao trembled violently, and a bloody mark appeared on the earthly sovereign's fist. Facing the strong attacks of 2 powerhouses with combat power over 100 million consecutively, he was also injured. Even so, the earthly sovereign was still incomparably strong. Moving quickly, he leaped up, broke through the void, and approached Fang Ping in the blink of an eye. "Don't you like close combat? I'll fulfill your wish." Boom! There was only a roar between heaven and earth. Fang Ping's Changdao turned into a boxing glove, and his fists and feet moved at the same time, exchanging thousands of blows with the earthly sovereign in the blink of an eye. Bang! With a loud bang, Fang Ping flew backward, smashing through layers of the void, blood spilling from his mouth. A huge fist shadow appeared on his chest, and his body was broken into countless wounds. The earthly sovereign blasted Fang Ping away, and the suppressing heavenly king compressed his body and attacked again. At the same time, a bamboo whip stabbed at the earthly sovereign. And at this moment, Shu Xiang cooperated with the Big Tao book and entangled the earthly sovereign's saber with difficulty. Her body was already dripping with blood. Zhang Tao's face was also a little pale. Too strong. 120 million, more like 150 million. The earthly sovereign was stronger than they had expected, even close to Emperor Dong Huang. The suppressing heavenly king's two bodies had completely merged, and his combat power was equal to Fang Ping's. Two top powerhouses, together with Zhang Tao, a powerhouse whose combat power had soared to nearly 100 million through Renhuang Path. And Shu Xiang were still suppressed. 1 against 4. It was not the earthly sovereign who was at a disadvantage, but them. Shu Xiang could be killed on the spot at any time. And the martial king, whose combat power was close to 100 million, could only play a supporting role and could not even or dare not to fight in close combat with the earthly sovereign. Only Fang Ping and the suppressing heavenly king could fight in close combat and would not be killed by the earthly sovereign. 36 levels of heaven, the god emperor, and Do both came out this time, no longer playing chess, no longer drinking tea. Both of them looked at the projections between heaven and earth with solemn expressions. Hong was stronger than before. Not only Hong, but Fang Ping and the suppressing heavenly king were also very strong, and Zhang Tao was also unexpectedly strong, but they were not as shocked as Hong. 8,000 years was not a long time. As for Hong, he had grown to such an extent. The Emperor of Heaven Reverse stared at the projection of the earthly sovereign in the sky, overbearing and cold as always. After a while, he asked in a low voice, "Should we stop them?" The God Emperor watched for a while and said coldly, "Stop them? Can you stop them? Whoever stops them will be their enemy." This was the choice of the earthly sovereign and Fang Ping. Or, this was the battlefield between the human world and the catacombs. All the grudges would come to an end today. Who would stop them? The Emperor of Heaven Reverse said no more. The look in his eyes was complicated. "Hong, you are still the same. The 11th heaven, Emperor Dong Huang, and the Emperor of Heaven looked at each other. The Emperor of Heaven was bitter. I am not as good as him. There was no doubt that he was no match for the earthly sovereign. The earthly sovereign was so powerful that even he was shocked. Fang Ping and the suppressing heavenly king were powerful as well, but not enough to frighten him. The earthly sovereign, on the other hand, did frighten him. If they fought one-on-one, he might be killed. Emperor Dong Huang was also watching. After a while, he murmured, "Too bad, it is not enough. Not strong enough." The Emperor of Heaven Reverse speculated. Was it because he was not strong enough to defeat the God Emperor? But those few were all ancient beginner martial artists, the first batch of martial artists in the world. Hong was not one of them. When he was born, those ancient beginner martial artists were already powerful. Kill. At this moment, Fang Ping and the others had no time to care about what the others were thinking. They could only fight and kill. The earthly sovereign was too powerful. Even when the four of them joined hands, they were still suppressed by him. Boom. The earthly sovereign's long hair was dancing. At this moment, he looked like a demon. His palm was like a knife. He chopped off the King Wu's arm. Then he turned around and punched the suppressing heavenly king's shoulder. Fang Ping wielded his saber and finally succeeded. With a puff, the flesh and blood of the earthly sovereign's arm were cut off. Clang! The saber was stuck on the jade-like bone. Fang Ping abandoned the saber and stepped back. However, the earthly sovereign sneered and kicked out. The void exploded and huge cracks appeared. These gigantic fissures surrounded Fang Ping directly, and the sound of slicing could be heard incessantly. This was not a space crack, but a crack of the origin of this place. This place was originally the place where the Beast King proved his Tao. The Tao fruit was broken, and the cracks had been suppressed by the Celestial Emperor. But now, the cracks reappeared. This was a crack that could even swallow the Emperor. Even if Fang Ping's body was extremely strong, he was cut into a bloody man at this moment. Weak, the earthly sovereign despised him. His voice was still so cold. Weak, Fang Ping was covered in blood. He chuckled. With a bang, the cracks spread everywhere. Once again, he held the long saber in his hand and rushed toward the earthly sovereign. He said with a smile, "I have cultivated martial arts for 3 years. I don't want to hurt you. You are weaker than me." 3 years of cultivation? The earthly sovereign said coldly, "In life and death, only the strong and the weak matter. Who cares how long you have cultivated? Stupid. Ridiculous. When I was cultivating, Sky and the others had already become the overlords of the world. Should I blame them for cultivating longer than me? What a joke." The earthly sovereign was disdainful. Fang Ping also grinned and said, "It makes sense, but you are really not cute. Not as cute as Feng Yun. If you don't know how to talk, then talk less." Boom. Behind them, the heavenly king bombarded the void with a punch. The earthly sovereign was surrounded by cracks. Fang Ping and Zhang Tao attacked at the same time. A saber and a whip attacked instantly, mixed with boundless blood qi. "It seems that you are still not as strong as I expected. Then I won't play with you anymore." At this time, the earthly sovereign was extremely calm. The moment his voice died away, the earthly sovereign suddenly disappeared. "Martial King? Ha!" As soon as the laughter died away, boom, a fist fell on the top of Zhang Tao's head. Zhang Tao's expression changed greatly. Fang Ping instantly turned his saber and attacked. "Defend!" With a roar, the Book of Big Truths appeared again. Boom! The Book of Big Truths was broken, and Zhang Tao's head was smashed directly. Bang! The earthly sovereign kicked out, directly kicking the rest of the body into pieces. Kill! Fang Ping's saber fell, and the heavenly king also punched. The earthly sovereign disappeared again. Puff! Fang Ping's long saber slashed the air. The next moment, a huge force came from his arm. Bang! The earthly sovereign punched again, this time breaking Fang Ping's right arm. Fang Ping swung his left fist at the same time. With a bang, the flesh and blood of his left fist disappeared and exploded. The earthly sovereign also appeared, slightly staggered, a hole appearing in his arm. On the other side, the heavenly king attacked very quickly. His feet shattered the void, and a kick sent the earthly sovereign flying. The earthly sovereign stomped the void and looked at Zhang Tao, who was quickly recovering his body. He smiled faintly and said, "So weak." Zhang Tao's body recovered, but his face was pale. His combat strength was close to 100 million, but at this moment, facing the earthly sovereign, his flesh was almost destroyed in the blink of an eye. If it were not for Fang Ping and the others, he might have been killed just now. The powerful earthly sovereign. Chapter 1466. Weak. Fang Ping snorted. "If you're weak, don't run." "Run." Earthly sovereign also sneered. "You think I can run if I'm faster than you? Then I'll show you." Boom. In the blink of an eye, earthly sovereign's shadows were everywhere. Fang Ping and the others were surrounded in the middle. Yes, surrounded. The 4 of them were surrounded by one person. Rumble. The sound of the collision was constantly heard. Fang Ping and Heavenly King were the main force. King Wu was the support, and Scholar was still fighting with the earthly sovereign sword. The 3 of them continued to fight, and their injuries increased. Earthly sovereign quickly dissipated those shadows and appeared not far away again. At this moment, Earthly Sovereign also had some injuries, but they were much lighter than the three of them. Earthly Sovereign panted slightly and said with a smile, "I take back what I said before. Not too weak, just a little weak." Seal. Fong Ping was too lazy to talk anymore. With a low roar, old Zhang's Book of Tao appeared again and instantly covered Earthly Sovereign. Boom! Earthly Sovereign smashed the Book of Tao again, but this time, old Zhang was also ruthless. In the blink of an eye, a big seal was integrated into it. Rumble! Earthly Sovereign bombarded again, this time more than 10 punches in a row, but he could not break the Book of Tao. Entangle him! Fong Ping roared again. Heavenly King roared, and his flesh shook the void. He was so powerful that he took the initiative to attack Earthly Sovereign and entangled him. Earthly Sovereign bombarded the Book of Tao while fighting against Heavenly King. Heavenly King kept retreating, but he refused to give up. He roared and kept entangling with Earthly Sovereign. Puff! Fong Ping's mentality erupted, shaking the void. His mentality was like a knife, instantly cutting Earthly Sovereign a little dizzy. When the origin power was dispersed, it would be spiritual power and vitality power. Fong Ping's mentality was not weak. It was a full 400,000 hertz. For any emperor, 400,000 hertz mentality was not low. 400,000 hertz was equivalent to 40 million calories vitality, which was the standard for mentality powerhouses like Heaven Extermination in the past. Most of the other emperors were strong in their flesh and vitality. Their mentality was not weak either, and they had completed a qualitative change. But 400,000 hertz, not everyone among the emperors was like this. Earthly Sovereign's mentality was not weak either. In the face of Fong Ping's mentality attack, he also quickly used his mentality to resist, but when the two collided, Earthly Sovereign could only barely block it. Obviously, his spiritual energy was not very strong. His strength lay in his blood qi and his physical body. Fong Ping's strength control was extremely strong. A moment ago, it was mentality outburst. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a force outburst. The Changdao slashed out. With a rumble, the Earthly Sovereign retreated. The Book of Great Tao bombarded. The Earthly Emperor was a little surprised and said with a smile, "Interesting, the three of you have found a tacit understanding." Previously, the three of them fought separately. Although it could be considered a siege, most of the time, the Earthly Sovereign only needed to face one person. But now, the three of them had a stronger tacit understanding. When facing one person, the Earthly Sovereign still had an absolute advantage, but when facing three people attacking and defending at the same time, he found it a little difficult. "Then I'll play with you guys." With a loud bang, the Earthly Sovereign's sword appeared in the hand of the Earthly Sovereign. He was no longer empty-handed. With the long sword in his hand, he stabbed out. Boom! At this moment, the three of them had a greater tacit understanding. The heavenly gong, or the sun god's heart protection mirror, appeared in the hand of the heavenly king. In an instant, it blocked in front of old Zhang. With a bang, there was a harsh sound of metal colliding. On the other side, the Earthly Sovereign tilted his head slightly. A long saber slashed at him silently. The Earthly Sovereign tilted his head to avoid it, and the long saber slammed down fiercely. The Earthly Sovereign's long hair, like thousands of swords, all shot out with a puff, and the sound of clanging was endless. Boom! The sound of the explosion rang again. A blood mark appeared on the ear of the Earthly Sovereign, and a lot of his hair was broken. But he was still laughing happily, and the long sword was extremely fast. It was hard to imagine that this domineering emperor used a sword like an assassin. His control of power was obviously also very strong. Without the slightest energy fluctuation, He stabbed his sword again and again, stabbing at old Zhang, the weakest point of the three people. Old Zhang also looked solemn. He was now the weakest point. Even if Fang Ping and the Heavenly King were no match for the earthly sovereign, it would be very difficult for the earthly sovereign to kill them quickly. But the Heavenly King's combat power was less than 100 million, and there was still a big gap between them. Not only did the earthly sovereign's combat power exceed 100 million, but he was also a powerhouse who exceeded 100 million. While suppressing Fang Ping and the others, he could also find a chance to kill Zhang Tao. This was the problem. Old Zhang's expression changed for a while. The next moment, he gave up attacking and shouted, "Fang Ping!" Fang Ping looked at him. Seeing his solemn face, Fang Ping did not talk nonsense. He shouted in a low voice and rushed toward Zhang Tao instantly. Zhang Tao was like liquid, quickly merging into Fang Ping's body. Fang Ping's vitality soared. Taking advantage of the moment when the Heavenly King and the earthly sovereign were entangled, the long saber was 3 times faster and 3 times stronger than before. With a bang, the long saber slashed out. This time, the earthly sovereign was not the same as before. He just retreated a little. With a loud bang, the earthly sovereign habitually swung his fist to block. As a result, the flesh on his fist exploded, revealing the earthly sovereign's almost transparent hand bones. The earthly sovereign's body shook slightly. The Heavenly King saw the opportunity, roared, and blasted out a punch. With a bang, a clear fist mark appeared on the earthly sovereign's chest. Fang Ping was merciless. He waved the long saber, and in the blink of an eye, there were only saber shadows left between heaven and earth. The earthly sovereign also reacted quickly. With a cold snort, he held his sword and counterattacked. Insignificant skill. Fusion? Let's see how long you can last. Until it's time to kill you. Fang Ping was also not at a disadvantage in words. He could continue to fuse if the power of the 3 emperors in the system had not been used up. Now that he was fusing with old Zhang, he could feel the power of the system flowing away. However, at the same time, Fang Ping's combat strength also soared. Clang! The saber and sword clashed. At this time, Fang Ping did not show any obvious signs of being defeated. With the help of the Heavenly King, he was also on par with the earthly sovereign. Both of them took a step back. Seeing this, the Heavenly King shouted, "Do you still want to fuse?" Fang Ping did not say a word. He did not choose to fuse. It was fine if old Zhang did not exceed 100 million, but the Heavenly King's current combat strength had exceeded 100 million. Fang Ping could imagine how much power would be consumed if he fused. Would the system have enough energy? He did not want to be unable to defeat the earthly sovereign in a short time and lose all 3 of them. "You take the front, I'll take the back. Kill!" Fang Ping shouted and quickly attacked. On the other side, Xu Xiang did not delay any longer. Seeing that she was about to break through heaven and earth and go to the 5th heaven to help the others, the earthly sovereign suddenly roared, his voice shaking heaven and earth. Boom! The sound was like thunder. This roar was mixed with a large amount of vitality and mentality, causing Xu Xiang to feel dizzy. "I said you are mine, and you still want to leave?" In the 5th heaven, the sound of 6 powerhouses fighting shook the sky, but they were considered evenly matched. That guy, Old Cat, was much stronger than Hongyu, but this cat did not choose to kill. Instead, it kept pestering Hongyu, not letting him participate in the other's battle. As a result, Li Zhu and the God creation envoy, neither side had much of an advantage, and the heavenly even if they were to determine the God creation envoy, it would be difficult to break the balance. But Hong Kun, the ones who could really break the heavenly dog, were still Fang Ping and the others. The battle between Fang Ping and the others and the earthly sovereign became more and more fierce and tragic. It was unknown how many times they exchanged blows. With a bang, Fang Ping flew backward again, his chest pierced. But this time, the earthly sovereign did not gain an advantage. At the same time that Fong Ping's chest was pierced, the heavenly king attacked, attracting most of his attention. As for Zhang Tao, he broke away from Fong Ping's body in an instant. The bamboo whip turned into a sword and stabbed out, piercing the earthly sovereign's throat, blood gushing out. The earthly sovereign turned his head and punched out, sending old Zhang flying. On the other side, in the blink of an eye, Fong Ping merged with old Zhang again and continued to fight, fighting with the earthly sovereign. At this time, the sixth heaven was almost completely destroyed. The group had even fought to the seventh heaven, where Emperor Nan's original birthplace was now full of cracks. In the source land, there were many broken worlds today. However, when these people had just fought to the seventh heaven, there was a force coming out of the sixth heaven, continuing to suppress the sixth heaven. Obviously, although the heavenly emperor did not intervene, he did not let these people break the source land. He was constantly suppressing these places. Old man, can you still hold on? The battle lasted for more than 10 minutes. Fong Ping was now riddled with holes, but the heavenly king over there seemed to be a little more miserable. The heavenly king coughed up blood, but he was full of energy. He scolded, "You can do it, but I can't. Drag it out with him. Kill him. Kid, continue to kill him." On the other side, the earthly sovereign was no longer as majestic and domineering as when he first appeared. The crown was long gone, his golden robe was also tattered, and the combat boots on his feet were completely shattered. At this time, he was barefoot like an old farmer in the countryside. However, the earthly sovereign was still in good shape. He looked at the two of them and sneered. "Drag me out? Do you think I'm like those good-for-nothings? In terms of patience and endurance, can you compare to me?" Fong Ping grinned and said, "Of course, the earthly sovereign is old and cunning, old and demonic, old and unbearable, sharp-tongued." "Sharp-tongued?" Fong Ping sneered and said, "Accept your fate when you're old." As soon as the words fell, Fong Ping was as fast as light and shadow. He flashed in an instant and slashed with his Chongdao. The earthly sovereign also stabbed with his sword. The two sides had fought many times before, and Fong Ping was always at a disadvantage. However, this time, Fong Ping did not make a sound, letting the sword penetrate his flesh, and slashed with his saber, breaking the bones of the earthly sovereign's hand. The earthly sovereign frowned, slightly. "Courting death." "Courting death?" Fong Ping grinned. I said, "You're old, and I'm still young." Did he really think that getting injured in a battle would not consume anything? It consumed a lot. Vitality, mentality, vitality. A powerhouse's long life depended on their strong vitality. However, with the continuous loss of vitality, they would age. Fong Ping could not care less now. Then he would drag it out to see who was more seriously injured and lost more vitality. He was young. Although the earthly sovereign was not too old among the emperors, he was more than 30,000 years old. Even if the emperor's lifespan was close to 100,000 years, the earthly sovereign was now a middle-aged man. Moreover, this old guy had participated in many battles before. Over the years, his vitality had been lost much more than Fong Ping's. The earthly sovereign frowned. His palm turned into a claw and instantly grabbed. Fong Ping also reached out and grabbed. At the same time, at his chest, old Zhang flashed in an instant, holding a dagger, and stabbed. On the other side, the heavenly king was just about to attack when Fong Ping roared, "Force outburst! About 2,000 original. Can you do it?" Nonsense! The heavenly king's force outburst in the blink of an eye. As a powerhouse like them, they could fuse into force, but they could not convert it completely. 2,000 original force was only equivalent to 40 million calories vitality. For them, such conversion was worse than not converting. However, since Fang Ping said it, the Heavenly King did not talk nonsense and quickly converted the force outburst. As soon as the force outburst, Fang Ping also took a step back and quickly condensed the force. In the blink of an eye, a huge force cluster appeared, and the Heavenly King instantly understood, manipulating the force into Fang Ping's force cluster. This was Dong Huang's combat technique, or a joint attack combat technique. At this time, Fang Ping still chose to use the joint attack combat technique. He did not use it before because the earthly sovereign was at his peak, and it was easy to interrupt the two's joint attack, which was more troublesome. The force cluster turned into the shape of a saber and merged into the chaos-vanquishing saber in the blink of an eye. This saber was stronger than before. The Heavenly King seemed to have become a force supply machine, constantly providing Fang Ping with force. Seeing this, the earthly sovereign snorted coldly. "If it's not mine, then it's not mine." Before he finished speaking, Fang Ping's long saber exuded a strong aura of destruction, and the saber slashed out quickly. Just like before, he did not dodge or evade, exchanging blows with the earthly sovereign. This time, the earthly sovereign was not happy. It was not worth it to continue exchanging blows. The earthly sovereign retreated, and Fang Ping did not let him go. He chased after him with the saber and continued to fight, provoking, "Why are you scared? Weren't you domineering before?" The earthly sovereign sneered. "You." As soon as he said that, the earthly sovereign turned around and punched Xu Xiang, who had just approached, and her flesh exploded. The broken flesh flew tens of thousands of meters away, and Fang Ping also took the opportunity to slash out with his saber. With a puff, this time, he finally achieved something. A huge crack appeared on the earthly sovereign's shoulder, and blood sprayed out. The earthly sovereign did not have time to recover, and Fang Ping had already attacked again. Xu Xiang's sneak attack did not succeed, but it did restrain the earthly sovereign. As for the severity of Xu Xiang's injury, at this time, both sides did not have time to care. With just these, it's not enough. The earthly sovereign snorted coldly. This was still not enough. Fang Ping's expression kept changing. It was not enough. If this went on, he could fight with the earthly sovereign until both sides were injured, but to say that he could kill the earthly sovereign, it was still not enough. In front of a group of powerhouses, it was not a good idea to fight until both sides were injured. Initially, he thought that the earthly sovereign and the emperor would be easier to kill, but now, Fang Ping felt that even if the earthly sovereign was not as good as Dong Huang, he was probably close. The emperor was the weakest. Was Dong Huang stronger than the earthly sovereign? Fang Ping did not really fight with Dong Huang, and now he could not tell, but he felt that even if he was stronger than the earthly sovereign, there was a limit. If he was stronger, Dong Huang could probably fight with the Emperor God and the others. After both sides fought for a while, the earthly sovereign panted and sneered, "Your endurance is not enough. As long as the source ground is not destroyed, our source energy will not be destroyed, but it seems that you can't." It was not possible. Fang Ping's origin was sealed. Unable to absorb energy from the source ground, he could only rely on himself to absorb. It was fine in the past, with the system providing it. Fang Ping did not need to last too long to deal with the enemy, and there would not be a situation where his energy was exhausted. Today, however, Fang Ping gradually felt the consumption of energy. If this went on, not to mention whether or not he could exhaust the earthly sovereign to death, his source energy was not enough. Although Fang Ping did not rely on source energy to convert combat strength, he did not have the origin to increase, but if this went on in the source world, a part of it would collapse. Of course, a large amount of origin soil could help Fang Ping barely maintain it. Do you think this is the second source ground? What a joke! Self-formed energy system? Do you have a lot of energy hoarding? This is not even comparable to the source ground. At least the source ground has a large amount of seed energy left in the past. Your second source ground is just a decoration. The earthly sovereign obviously knew something, but he did not care about Fang Ping's source world. While fighting, he attacked. You are afraid of being trapped in the source ground, not daring to prove your Tao. This is the real idiot. If I were you, I would prove my Tao in the source ground today. I might have a chance to fight with me. Prove my Tao? Fang Ping frowned. The earthly sovereign laughed and said, prove your Tao. Find a place where no one can prove their Tao. Take root in your source world and absorb energy, then you can prove your Tao. You don't have to break the 3 gates because your Tao is still a little different. Absorb energy in the source ground. Fang Ping was slightly shocked. At this time, the earthly sovereign's eyes moved, taking advantage of the shock in Fang Ping's mind. He stabbed out with his sword. With a puff, Fang Ping's throat was pierced, but a mouthful of blood turned into a blood arrow, shooting at the earthly sovereign. The earthly sovereign's vitality erupted, shattering the blood arrow, but there was no second chance. At this moment, the earthly sovereign laughed again and said, take root in the source ground. Absorb energy. What are you afraid of? It's not really impossible to escape. After absorbing energy, seal the source ground. Learn from the sun god. Steal energy. As long as you run fast, the source ground can't catch you. What did it mean? Fang Ping's heart moved again. As long as I run fast, the source ground can't catch me. Can't catch. Tao fruit. After taking root, would it be impossible to catch without condensing Tao fruit? Tao fruit was the trump card to trap other emperors. Puff! Fang Ping's shoulder was pierced again, and the heavenly king quickly pulled Fang Ping back from behind, shouting, don't be distracted. He's deliberately disturbing your mind. Fang Ping's eyes flickered, not necessarily on purpose. Steal the source ground's energy. How could he steal it? Put his own source world into the source ground? No, maybe he still had to open a gap, absorb the source ground's energy, strengthen the source ground, and then seal it? Seal the source world to avoid the condensation of Tao fruit. Was it feasible? Fang Ping was not sure. This was what the earthly sovereign said, and the earthly sovereign was the enemy, but maybe he could try. The earthly sovereign was right about one thing. His source world did not have a source of energy, although it was a self-formed world. It had not yet formed a system. Steal energy. Learn from the sun god. Fang Ping's eyes flickered, and the next moment, suddenly, a ball fell, the brain nucleus. The earthly sovereign also saw it, laughed, and with a playful look, in the blink of an eye, he attacked Fang Ping. This time, the earthly sovereign continued to attack. Even if Fang Ping and the heavenly king joined forces, they were still defeated. The brain nucleus, however, quickly fell into the 8th heaven. Someone had taken root in the 8th heaven, Emperor West. Fang Ping did not care, continued to fall, a moment later, entered the 9th heaven that was previously destroyed. Now, the suppression of the heavenly emperor's power suppressed the 9th heaven, and Fang Ping's brain nucleus fell into the 9th heaven. There was no one here, and no one cared. Fang Ping, who was at the 7th heaven, was now thinking about a problem. If the hole in the brain nucleus was broken and could not be closed, his strength would be lost. At least the 20% strength bonus would be gone. Once he lost the strength bonus, he would be much weaker than before. And opposite, the earthly sovereign's eyes were burning, and his mentality fluctuated. Dare to try. Fang Ping stared at him, and the earthly sovereign grinned, laughing crazily. Dare to try. If you don't try, even if you are strong, can you rival me? Can you rival Hao? Can you rival Qiong? If you can't, you still want to rival Heavenly Emperor? Ridiculous. Sooner or later, you will die. Why not try? Do you think that after this, others will still give you a chance to grow? The earthly sovereign sneered. No, you can even fight with me. They will not give you another chance. And the immortal source is about to mature. You don't have time. Fang Ping gave him a deep look. And suddenly, the ninth heaven, the brain nucleus cracked. In the next moment, the source world and the source world were connected. At this moment, Fang Ping felt a large amount of source power pouring into his source world. Too much, too much. Rumble. The source world was expanding, but Fang Ping himself showed a decline in strength. The brain nucleus was no longer closed. The 100% strength bonus disappeared. Fang Ping's combat strength instantly dropped. However, soon it began to recover, because the source world was expanding. At the same time, the ninth heaven was shaking nonstop. The earthly sovereign looked at Fang Ping and laughed. Don't steal the power of one place. Stupid, don't you understand? Anyway, you don't want to condense the Tao fruit. Then go to the eighth heaven. Absorb, absorb, absorb the power of the eighth heaven. Consume the repair power of celestial, and the cracks appear again. Celestial has to come back again to suppress it. That will be interesting. Fang Ping was stunned. Really, he did not think of this problem. At this moment, the earthly sovereign actually encouraged him to absorb the power of the eighth heaven, let the repair power after Emperor Nan's death be absorbed, and then forced Emperor Shi to return to the source ground to suppress it again. The ninth heaven was shaking. At this moment, also attracted the attention of others. Fang Ping fought with the earthly sovereign while thinking about other things, and the earthly sovereign, at this moment, did not seem to be as strong as before. Fang Ping's expression changed for a while, and he gritted his teeth. The brain nucleus quickly separated from the ninth heaven. In the blink of an eye, entered the eighth heaven, and began to absorb the power. 3 realms, misery, West Palace. Emperor Shi's expression changed, and he gritted his teeth. Damn, bastard, who is stealing the power of the eighth heaven? Damn it! Who the hell would do such a wicked thing? That's not right. How did they steal it? Each heaven can only take root for one emperor. I'm not dead yet. The Tao fruit conflict. The other party can't take root. What the hell is going on? He felt that the cracks of the eighth heaven were about to appear. The power was lost. The suction came again. If he did not go back, this powerful suction would suck his Tao fruit and destroy it. Damn it! Who is it? I've only been out for a few days. Is it still a human? Is it Hong or Fang Ping and the others? Now, the seventh heaven was fighting. If one were to talk about stealing power, it was probably only these few people. Of course, it might be Heavenly Emperor. But now Emperor Shi was really mad. He finally got rid of the source, and he did not want to go back. In the end, it almost affected the eighth heaven, and now someone was absorbing the power of the eighth heaven. If this went on, he had no choice but to go back. Bastard, bastard. There are so many uninhabited heavens, but they just have to steal from the eighth heaven. Do they still have any humanity? Emperor, she stomped his feet in anger. No matter how angry he was, he could not stop it. At this moment, Emperor, she struggled for a while, and then gritted his teeth. This source, he still had to go back. How pitiful! It was not easy to escape the cage, and in less than 3 months, he had to go back to prison. Forget about going to prison. There was still a war there. How dangerous it would be for him to go back. No one cared whether Emperor Shi stomped his feet or not. At this time, Fang Ping felt that his source world was much bigger, even expanding to 20,000 meters. When he felt that the eighth heaven's suction was getting stronger, and his source world was also shaking as if it was about to condense into Tao fruit, Fang Ping hurriedly stopped absorbing energy. As for the crack on the brain, Fang Ping tried to repair it, and very soon the crack was actually repaired. This made Fang Ping breathe a sigh of relief. At this moment, Fang Ping felt that his strength had been strengthened again. The source world had expanded to about 5,000 meters, and now it was at least 17,000 meters and above. His strength had also increased by a lot. As his strength increased, the earthly emperor opposite him erupted again. The earthly emperor laughed horribly and said faintly, "It seems like it's really working. It's a little interesting. You can continue to steal some more. Don't make too much noise." Fang Ping looked at him coldly and transmitted his voice. "What do you want to do?" "Hee, what do I want to do?" The earthly emperor's voice was cold. "Didn't I say, destroy the world? In this 3 realms, powerhouses are all prisoners, and so are the weak. Then what is the point of being a powerhouse? Destroy the world. Back then, I asked John to join forces with me to destroy the world, but he didn't agree. Ridiculous. He came up with a great Tao supplement source, suppressing the sea of bitterness with his flesh. How ridiculous. Prisoner, I fought in the 3 realms, killed my strength, fought for the throne, and actually made me a prisoner. If you want to make me a pawn, then you have to see if there is anyone who is qualified. In this 3 realms, is there anyone who is qualified? Not even a seed. Not anyone." Fang Ping frowned at him, but the earthly emperor's smile was chilling. "That idiot John said that there is still hope, but I don't believe it. He said that he will think of a way, that if he dies, he can delay it for a few years. Maybe there will be a way. Ridiculous. I don't believe it. I escaped the cage of the source and wandered the 3 realms for 8,000 years just to see where the hope he talked about is. I didn't expect it to be you. You are the hope." The earthly emperor sneered, contemptuous, disdainful, and quickly said again, "What kind of hope are you? I don't believe in the future he talked about, and I don't believe in the hope he talked about, but I believe. You are the same as me, with unwillingness, the desire to destroy the world, the desire to destroy indiscriminately. This is in line with my thoughts." Fang Ping said nothing. "That's what I want." The earthly emperor said crazily, "If I die, you all die together. Don't think about it. I want to do that, but I'm not strong enough. You still have some hope? Not only have the hope to kill everyone in the 3 realms, but also have the hope to kill the seed." Fang Ping was shocked. The earthly emperor laughed coldly. "You came from inside the seed. You are not a human, at least not a human in the 3 realms. Destroy the world. Destroy the 3 realms. Other people are the connection between the seed and the 3 realms, but you are not. You can destroy the world. Destroy the human race. Destroy the 3 realms, and the seed will become a waste. You kill it, then whether you die or not, it has nothing to do with me. Anyway, I am not willing to be a puppet, a prisoner for the rest of my life." I am not a human," Fang Ping murmured. The earthly emperor sneered. "What kind of human are you?" "Even if you think you are not a human in the 3 realms, at least not a pure human in the 3 realms. So, in this world, the only one who can destroy the seed is you. Jean, you have chosen a good candidate. This idiot, I don't want to be the villain who destroys the world. I want you to do it. Since you have inherited his power, of course, you have to do it. Ha ha, this old man likes people like you. Evil devil, vengeful. Very good, this is what I want. Otherwise, there will be another rotten scholar like Jean. Even if he has the power to destroy the world, he does not have the heart to destroy the world. You are too much in line with this old man's wishes." The earthly emperor laughed and said telepathically again, "If you were an idiot like King Wu, a rotten scholar like Jean, and a waste like Shun, you would have died long ago. The day you were in the divine sect, you were dead. I like your character. You will take revenge, cut the weeds, and eliminate the roots. Not everyone in the divine sect kills human powerhouses. You went to the divine sect and almost destroyed the whole divine sect. Ha! You are too much in line with this old man's wishes." The earthly emperor laughed proudly and satisfactorily. That day he had recognized it, because he was too familiar with the power of the 3 emperors. He was too familiar with the power of Jean. Kill all the people in the 3 realms, and then kill the seed, and you will succeed. I can't wait. The earthly emperor was a little crazy. Changed? The earthly emperor from 8,000 years ago became kind. What a joke. He was the emperor. He was the overlord. He was the rebellious earthly emperor. How could he change? More than 8,000 years ago, he wanted to destroy the world, but it was rejected by that idiot John. He was not reconciled, but it was useless. Without John's help, he could not do it. Today, there was hope. Chapter 1467. Fang Ping's expression changed. Emperor of Earth continued, I want to see you destroy the world, but I'm afraid I won't have the chance. At this moment, the earthly sovereign's eyes were burning. While bombarding Fang Ping, he said telepathically, This is my test for you. If you can satisfy me, I'll give you a big gift. If you can't pass, you'll die. Trash. You're not qualified for me to look at you differently. You want to kill Celestial Emperor? You want to kill Celestial Emperor? You want to kill Seed? If you want, kill me first. Show me what you've got. If you can do it, I will help you destroy the world. Fang Ping's eyes sparkled as he looked at him. Help me? How will you help me? Emperor of Earth seemed to understand him. He grinned. Do you really think I am not prepared? You have to be prepared to destroy the world. But I am imprisoned and limited. This is all I can do for the rest of my life. You have hope. Have hope. Ha ha ha. Fang Ping, kill me and let me see what you have got. Or else you will die with me. Emperor of Earth sounded crazy, but he was very calm. At the moment, his combat strength was increasing, even though Fang Ping's source world had expanded and his strength had been strengthened. But at the moment, he was still suppressed. This guy definitely had a combat strength of 150 million. Fang Ping said nothing and kept fighting with Emperor of Earth. Heavenly King Zhen could not hear their conversation, but he sensed something was wrong. Emperor of Earth was not right today, and so was Fang Ping. What were they talking about? 36 levels of heaven. Emperor God stared at Emperor of Earth's shadow without saying a word. He frowned and was lost in thought. Emperor of Heaven Reverse was also staring at the shadow. After a while, Emperor of Heaven Reverse whispered, Interesting. He seems to be helping Fang Ping polish his strength on purpose. What is Hong trying to do? Emperor God said nothing. Soon, he looked at the 5th level of heaven. That was the battlefield of others. Heaven, the celestial court, the celestial emperor after the heavenly realm was broken. Li Zhu, the emperor of the earthly realm, the path of earthly emperor. Kuan, Emperor God murmured. Kuan, the path of Kuan, have you ever seen it? Emperor of Heaven Reverse was shocked. The path of energy. No, At this moment, Emperor of Heaven Reverse was in a trance. What was Hong Kuan? The next second, the Emperor of Heaven Reverse Emperor's expression changed. He murmured, Hong Kuan has studied the heavenly hound for 3,000 years and trapped the heaven wood for 8,000 years. Something is not right. Something is not right. Twice he failed. He gained nothing. Kahong has always been in the divine sect. The Emperor of Heaven Reverse Emperor murmured. His expressions changed. The divine emperor tilted his head to look at him and said slowly, Let the heavenly wood prove its Tao and fuse it with the dragon transformation. Let's see if it can produce a demon Tao fruit. Emperor of Heaven Reverse's expressions changed. He was not in a hurry. He asked softly, Sovereign of Heaven, Sovereign of Earth, Sovereign of Fae, and Sovereign of Humans, Hong, what is he doing? At that moment, both he and Cheung had a vague idea. The two looked at each other, and the divine emperor said in a low voice, The second origin ground. Emperor of Heaven Reverse was taken aback. He wants to seize the power of the origin land, and then the source of the source. Yes, the Emperor God took a deep breath and said with some difficulty, the second source, Fong Ping, the three sovereigns of heaven, earth, and human. And the demon sovereign. The demon sovereign is not Hong Yu, but Hong Kuan, the real demon sovereign. He has stolen the Tao of heavenly wood and heavenly hound. No, the heavenly hound, is he a monster? The Emperor of Heaven Reverse murmured, is the heavenly hound a monster? Yes, the divine emperor said, maybe not the cat, but the heavenly hound is a monster. But the heavenly hound does not see itself as a monster, so it cannot win the hearts of the monsters. But Hong Kuan, if he has stolen the heavenly hound's Tao and fused it with the Tao of heavenly wood, then he will be the demon sovereign. The Emperor of Heaven Reverse's expression changed again. At this moment, he understood everything. The sovereign of Earth had set up a big trap. He wanted to rebuild the origin land. But how could he know that Fong Ping would build the second origin land? It was not certain, unless he had it all figured out. Or it was inevitable. He and Jean have an agreement? The Emperor of Heaven Reverse whispered. He and Jean must have an agreement. Fong Ping is not a pawn of Jean alone. He and Jean set this up together. The two looked at each other. The divine emperor looked at him and exhaled. Fong Ping's second origin land is modeled after the cat. The cat has been in the land realm for many years. It met Fong Ping, a coincidence? The Emperor of Heaven Reverse forced a smile. Coincidence? Not a coincidence. How can it be a coincidence? Fong Ping has the energy of the three emperors. The cat must have noticed something. It is formed by the filth of the origin land. The passageway opened by the three emperors can release some filth. The cat must have felt something and felt that Fong Ping could give it a sense of security. The divine emperor nodded. Soon he said in a low voice, Fong Ping cut off his Tao and embarked on the path of the second origin land because he ran into danger at the Spirit King Dojo and was almost killed. He had to cut off his Tao. The Emperor of Heaven Reverse forced a smile again. At that time, Hong Kuan, Hong Yu, and Li Zhu were all there. It was them who united the forces and forced them to cut off their Tao to protect themselves. The two looked at each other. At this moment, all the clues were connected. It was not a surprise that Fong Ping chose this path. Someone was forcing him to take this path step by step. If he had not met the cat, Fong Ping would not have known that he could do this. If he had not been at the Spirit King Dojo, Fong Ping would not have chosen this path. The cat had always lived in the land realm. At the Spirit King Dojo, Fong Ping and the others were forced to a dead end. It could be said that it was the three sons of the earthly emperor who forced them to do this. Hong Yu was not a part of it. Even so, Hong Yu was a threat. Li Zhu and Hong Kuan were the masterminds. They united the forces and forced the humans to do this. Without them, the others would not have besieged and killed the humans. They forced Fong Ping to cut off his Tao to help Zhang Tao in order to protect himself. None of this was an accident. Someone arranged it on purpose. He did it on purpose. The Emperor's Tao of the three realms of heaven, earth, and human, the demon's Tao. Hong wanted to open the second origin land so that Fong Ping could compete with the Emperor of Heaven. Such boldness! How ambitious! Hong had not been idling for the past 8,000 years. Having understood what was going on, the two of them exchanged glances. Then the God Emperor suddenly chuckled. Does the person below see it? The Emperor of Heaven, Reverse Emperor, looked at him and smiled. After a while, the Emperor God said slowly, maybe you can see it, maybe not. Do you think we should stop him? Stop him? The Emperor God thought for a while and suddenly said, I have a question. Even if Fong Ping can open the second origin land, how can he get away from it? Now, the Emperor God was also confused. Soon, he said in a low voice, Hong is going to help him? The earthly emperor was going to use his Tao fruit to help Fong Ping? At this moment, the two thought of this. The next moment, they looked at the 22nd heaven. That was the earthly emperor's territory. At the same time, a gust of powerful force descended on the 22nd heaven and sealed off the space. The Emperor of Heaven's power. Not only that, someone said coldly, "Don't let him go on." Obviously, while the two had figured it out, someone else had figured it out as well. The earthly emperor's territory was sealed off. The Tao fruit could not escape. Even if the earthly emperor died, the Tao fruit would not fall into someone else's hands. Why not? The Emperor God said indifferently, "We also want to see what the outcome will be. Besides, this is also an opportunity. Even if Fong Ping really obtains the Tao fruit, he will be imprisoned in this world by the Tao fruit's power. What are you worried about? You, be careful of playing with fire." The Emperor of Heaven's voice was cold. This was not lighting a fire. This was self-immolation. Were they not afraid of an accident? The Emperor of Heaven Reverse said with a smile, "This is just speculation. Why worry? What's more, can they really succeed? God, why don't we wait and see?" The Emperor of Heaven Reverse said coldly, "If you want to watch, then I will accompany you. But I am afraid you will die faster." The Emperor of Heaven Reverse grinned. "This is just a game. Who dies first and who dies later? Why bother?" "Up to you." The Emperor of Heaven chuckled, and his voice disappeared. At this moment, the two powerhouses looked at the earthly emperor's side again. "I think we have been found out." The seventh heaven. At this moment, the earthly emperor suddenly laughed. "Those guys are not stupid. I think they have found out. That was fast. I knew we could not hide it from them." Fong Ping also sensed it. He sensed a strong force locked on the 22nd heaven, the territory of the earthly emperor. The earthly emperor suddenly looked at Fong Ping and said with a wicked smile, "Fong Ping, do you want to guess who is better, me or the Emperor of Heaven? Strength? No, IQ." The earthly emperor grinned brightly. "I am the wisest man in the three realms. What do you think?" Fong Ping smashed his fist force with his saber and said with a smile, "What do you think?" "I think I should be, because I have seen too much, more than these idiots. They have been working behind closed doors while I have traveled the three realms for 8,000 years. I have seen too much. Fong Ping, tell me, is there any need for this world to exist?" The earthly emperor laughed casually. "There is really no need for it to exist. If you really don't want to wipe out the human race, why don't you try to transfer them to your place of origin and see if you can cut off the connection with the seed? If you can, then kill everyone. If not, you will die sooner or later. Why don't you try to wipe out the world?" Fong Ping said nothing. "You are still too soft-hearted. This is not good. I am worried that my plan will fail. Won't it be like sacrificing the lives of the Hong family without any benefits? No, at least we will get rid of this cage." The earthly emperor murmured, "The cage is not only the place of origin, but also the three realms. The three realms are all cages." Fong Ping said nothing. At this moment, his brain continued to fly to other heavens and continue to absorb strength. He found that the earthly emperor seemed to be helping him polish his strength. This guy seemed to want to help him quickly complete the accumulation of strength. At this moment, the earthly emperor did not care about Fong Ping's absorption of strength and continued to babble. "Fong Ping, do you know what you did when you died in the battle?" "Too much. What are you talking about?" "Forget it. You won't understand even if I tell you." The earthly emperor suddenly laughed and said, "Among the 9 emperors, there are 3 teachers and 1 brother. Guess who it is?" You, congratulations, you got it right. The earthly emperor laughed and said, I am his brother, the best brother. I have a better relationship with him than Mia and that iron head. Do you believe it? Not really. Stupid. That's because people are used to calling me the four emperors and four emperors. In fact, Jean and I have the best relationship. The earthly emperor was like a child at this moment, showing off and boasting. Jean and I are geniuses. You don't understand. For us, geniuses are proud. They are things that others can't understand and understand. So, Jean will only talk to me about life. Tell me, what is there to talk about with Mia? What can he talk about with that idiot iron head? He doesn't believe in my brother. He dared to come to the heavenly court alone to find me. Did he not think that I would find someone to kill him? The earthly emperor smiled and said, because I am his brother. Kid, you really don't understand. 10,000 years ago, I talked to him about doing something big together. He was unwilling. Do you know what happened in the end? The earthly emperor sighed and said, so, we said that we will see who will succeed in the end. As for me, I didn't want to rely on his backup plan. I was planning it myself. Unfortunately, the cage of the three realms still trapped me. But you can break this cage, break this limit, break this taboo. The earthly emperor shook his head. Jean is still a little more skilled. He actually thought of a way to jump out of the three realms. Fong Ping, don't you think it's strange that you have cultivated to this realm in more than 3 years? Don't you think it's too easy for you to improve? Don't you think you have no restrictions at all? You know, everyone has restrictions and bottlenecks. If not, wouldn't everyone be able to become Celestial Emperor and Yang God? Fong Ping frowned again. The earthly emperor laughed and said, because you are not a person of the three realms. How can you be imprisoned by the three realms? So, I also want to try today to see if you can really succeed. Now it seems that there is hope, Fong Ping said in a low voice. Since you think so, why don't we join forces? Stupid. The earthly emperor sneered and said, join forces? Do you think it's useful if we join forces? Do you think that 2 scholars can kill you? This is the result of you and me joining forces. Do you think we can kill Celestial Emperor and Yang God? What's more, do you really think I can still live? The earthly emperor sneered and said, they are already suspicious now. Even if I can live, I have no chance to do anything. I want to let them know that they are the stupidest group of guys, and I am a wise man. Fong Ping did not speak, thinking about something else at the moment. The earthly emperor laughed again and said, you don't seem to believe it? The earthly emperor laughed and did not say anything about this. He suddenly asked, how is it? How long can the absorbed power last? Fong Ping looked at him and said after a while, Celestial Emperor seems to have blocked the source. I am absorbing very little power now. Of course, I have expected it. The earthly emperor was not in a hurry. Celestial Emperor is just relying on his long life. Don't worry too much about him. He is not as smart as me and Zhang Tsongming. If he can think of it, we have already thought of it. That idiot has always wanted to do something. Unfortunately, with us messing around, how can he succeed? The earthly emperor laughed. However, it is a little difficult for you to leave today. You have to rely on me. Call me Grandpa, and Grandpa will find a way to send you away. What do you think? How about you call me Grandpa? Fong Ping snorted coldly and slashed his saber again. At this time, this old guy still wanted to take advantage of him. You don't even call me Grandpa. You are really unworthy of my Hong family's efforts. The earthly emperor smiled brightly. My 3 sons for today have paid a lot, and I am too lazy to talk about paying because I need you to help me do things that I can't do. But those 3 brats are still very innocent, the earthly emperor smiled, and his smile was a little sad. But I don't want them to live in this cage anymore, like me, to be a prisoner of the three realms. Fong Ping looked at him, speechless for a moment. Boy, keep the Book of Wind and Cloud. When the cage of the three realms is broken, if there is another three realms, remember, don't forget my Hong family. It's better to leave a legend. Remember, help my Hong family write a piece of history. The family of the wise. The earthly emperor suddenly laughed at this moment and said, Sons, don't make trouble. It's time to get down to business. At this moment, the fifth heaven, the bodies of the three emperors trembled slightly. Hong Kuen's expression changed for a while. He slapped the heavenly hound away and said softly, Father, don't you want to play a little longer? Enough. The earthly emperor laughed and said, If you continue, there will be no more fun. We, father and son, should be free, leave this cage, and start the next period of time. Ha ha ha. Hong Kuen sighed. Then let's do as you wish, father. On the other side, Li Zhu panted, a little bitter and a little helpless. Old man, I don't have much protection from you. You met me a few times, but only left me a task, not a family relationship. Do you really have the nerve to ask me to die with you? Why not? The earthly emperor laughed loudly and said, You are my son, so don't be embarrassed. If I want to be your father, you will follow. Don't talk nonsense. Or you can ask the celestial emperor to be your father. Then forget it, Li Zhu said with a bitter smile. That good for nothing. He has no brains, no guts, no charisma. He is not as good as you, old thing. Ha ha ha. The earthly emperor laughed out loud, as if he had heard something incredible. On the other side, Hong Yu was already trapped by the cat. He looked like he was struggling, but soon he sighed and suddenly threw a crystal bead to the cat. He chuckled and said, Help me take her in, okay? The cat widened its eyes and looked at the figure in the bead. It was a little strange. Meow, isn't she in the lower realm? Moon spirit. When the North Emperor died, I secretly went to seal her. Hong Yu smiled brightly. Hong Yu smiled brightly. Let her have a good sleep. She hasn't had a good rest in 8,000 years. Cat, can you help me this once? I will not hold it against you and the heavenly hound for spying on us. I will also not hold it against you for ruining my reputation. The cat looked at him and took the bead with its paw. It said in a daze, but, no buts. If the three realms are destroyed, then let her die peacefully in her dreams. If it's not destroyed, then let her forget her past and continue living. Hong Yu smiled brightly. I thought that she would have forgotten me after 8,000 years, but she can't. What a headache. The cat stared at him blankly, not knowing what to say for a moment. I should go. That father of mine is unreliable. He only cares about the Hong family's glory. What glory is there to speak of? Hong Yu shook his head helplessly. At this moment, the earthly emperor laughed again. What are you waiting for? If you delay any longer, the celestial emperor and the other good-for-nothings will come for you. Our family will go to hell together. I wonder if that good-for-nothing seed has opened up hell. Let's go. Fifth heaven, heavenly hound, and the other powerhouses were stunned. What was the earthly emperor trying to do? At the same time, the earthly emperor looked at Fong Ping and said helplessly, They found out too quickly. There's no time to continue inspecting the goods. I've been observing you for a while. You're not bad. Stop talking nonsense. Open your source world. Open an entrance. Fong Ping frowned. The earthly emperor suddenly snorted coldly. Are you afraid of death? Fong Ping took a deep breath. Suddenly, a ball appeared in his hand. Brain nucleus. At this moment, a crack appeared on the brain nucleus. The earthly emperor smiled in satisfaction. The next moment, he roared, Let's go. Together. You three, hurry up. We're all brothers. Although Li Zhu is the product of Casanova, he's still your younger brother. Bring him along. Don't lose him. Father will find you later. At this moment, Fang Ping also shouted in a low voice, "Let them go." Fifth heaven, the God creation envoy, and the others were a little surprised, but they did not attack again. In the next moment, Hong Kuan broke through heaven and earth and entered the sixth heaven. He glanced at Fang Ping and then at the earthly emperor. Slightly helpless, he said softly, "Father, I've always disliked this guy. It's good that he dislikes you. The more he dislikes you, the better. Disgusting people is a good hand. If you're unhappy, others will be even more unhappy." Hong Kuan could not help but laugh. He laughed again. "Fine, we've already come to this point. I don't want to regret it anymore." Hong Kuan laughed. In the next moment, heaven and earth trembled. With a rumble, a Tao fruit broke through the air. At this moment, a big hand appeared in the void, as if to capture this Tao fruit. However, the earthly emperor sneered. The big hand had penetrated too far. The celestial emperor was still far away. The earthly emperor threw out his sword. The earthly emperor's sword exploded in the void directly. Rumble! With a loud bang, the big hand exploded. Hong Kuan's Tao fruit flew directly into Hong Kuan's hand. Hong Kuan glanced at Fang Ping and shook his head slightly. Suddenly, he burst into flames. With a fiery light, he smiled and said, "My father said that we might be born in a new world. I hope I can see you again at that time." As soon as he finished speaking, Hong Kuan had already become a torch. He walked toward Fang Ping step by step, toward the brain nucleus. Hong Kuan, will condense the demon Tao fruit for you today. In the future, if there are more demons, treat me as the ancestor. With a smile on his face, Hong Kuan stepped into the source world in the brain nucleus step by step. Fang Ping's expression was solemn. He looked at him without saying a word. He did not stop him from entering either. On the other side, Hong Yu had been carrying the newly condensed Tao fruit. At this moment, his whole body was burning. He said reluctantly, "I can't bear to. What a pity. I condensed the celestial Tao fruit. Then, there will be the celestial realm. I will be the ancestor of the celestial realm." After burning himself, Hong Yu followed Hong Kuan and stepped forward step by step. Li Zhu, who was the last, stretched out his hand and waved. A Tao fruit flew out from the fifth heaven. Li Zhu looked at Fang Ping and Zhang Tao, who had reappeared. He smiled and said, "Both of you, these few years have been very exciting, very interesting. The ups and downs of the three realms were very interesting to watch. However, if there is an afterlife, Fang Ping, you'd better not greet me. I hate it when you talk." With a smile on his face, Li Zhu walked forward toward Fang Ping's source world. He said loudly, "The Ji family, the king of the earthly realm. I, Li Zhu, the emperor of the earthly realm. Unfortunately, this is not the earthly realm. I will go to the next world and wait for you." At this moment, the three emperors burned themselves and their Tao fruits. The three of them entered Fang Ping's source world one after another. Like three blazing suns, they burned rapidly in Fang Ping's source world. All the energy and strength were brought into this new world. The earthly sovereign had a complicated look in his eyes. He watched the three of them enter, looked at Fang Ping, turned to the others, looked at Emperor Dong Huang and Emperor Ren Huang, who had complicated looks in their eyes. He smiled and suddenly raised his middle finger. Emperor Dong Huang was slightly stunned. The earthly sovereign grinned and said, "I will go first. You wait for your death. You will die a lowly death. Watch the Hong family leave its name in the three realms today. Ha ha ha. Along with the laughter, a voice came into Fang Ping's ears. Go quickly. Get out of here. I will help you kill Ji. Shen will go with you. The rest of you, good luck. Fang Ping, you have to succeed. I have gambled big this time. Do you still remember those 3 treasures? They were either for my son or for your grandson. Ji won't die. Someone will protect him. After I die, you kill him with the jade sword. 22nd heaven, selfless Tao fruit. 8,000 years ago, I was freed. I faked my death and escaped through the great Tao of battle. He was my brother, so how could he not help me? He died, and most of his strength was used to repair the crack in the source. My Tao fruit is that crystal ball. That is my Tao fruit. Break my Tao fruit so that you can get out. Kill Ji and let Shen go. And that jade pendant. In the past, in the arcane realm, Fang Ping had obtained 3 treasures from the earthly sovereign. He had never found the secret. Today, Fang Ping was a little dazed. That sword was a killing move. That crystal ball was the Tao fruit. Earthly sovereign. He had left the source world without a sound 8,000 years ago. That jade pendant. Fang Ping was still in shock. The earthly sovereign suddenly laughed and said, that jade pendant is nothing. You will know what it is when you break it. Let's go, kid. I want to become the strongest person in the 3 realms. Ha ha ha. With boundless laughter, the earthly sovereign shouted, 3 kids, your father is here. Don't leave in a hurry. At this moment, the earthly sovereign directly burned himself. In an instant, he broke through heaven and earth. In the blink of an eye, he descended on Dong Huang and the others. Ji, my good brother, let's have a chat. The Emperor's path has not been completed yet. You are the only one left. King Wu, I am afraid that guy will be reluctant. Ha ha ha. Boundless laughter shook the source world and the 3 realms. Boom. An earth-shattering noise rang out again. The 3 realms were filled with boundless light. In the sound of the explosion, the Emperor's exasperated roars, angry shouts, and screams could be heard. Lunatics. This family was full of lunatics. 1 family with 4 emperors would die together today. 9 heavens, divine emperor. Chapter 1468. Global High Martial Arts chapter reviews are no longer displayed, making me wait the whole night to refresh chapters. Currently typing, please wait a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.